Well, Mia interjected, either way I'm going. You two can keep brooding over ice sculptures. I'm taking a little adventure. Adventure sounds good, I said, my intrigue swelling as a rush of excitement chased away the earlier tension. Count me in, Mia. Me too, Elias added, his voice strong with resolve. If anyone's going into the lion's den, it needs to be together. I'm definitely not letting either of you take unnecessary risks. The universe can toss icebergs at us, and I'll have none of it, Mia declared. Just don't let it stop the winter wonderland, right? I shot back, my heart racing again, this time racing toward the thrill of the chase and the undeniable chemistry simmering between Elias and me. Exactly, she grinned, clinking her glass against mine. As the night progressed, we moved to the lounge where couches swelled with blissful warmth, laughter and playful jabs echoing through the air. I delighted in the banter, basking in the company of my friends who offered unwavering support, even as I found my mind wandering back to Elias, who sat beside me with an intensity that ignited something fierce within. He caught my eye, a flicker of desire igniting in the depths of his gaze. A moment passed, stretched just long enough for tension to coil back between us, radiant as a stretch of ice under the sun. Let's get out of here, he murmured, his voice low but clear over the laughter ringing around us. Where? I asked. He leaned back slightly, considering, his gaze burning into mine. How about away from all this, and somewhere a little more, well, secluded? Mia laughed, oblivious to the heat between us. You two and your mystery, now I need to know. Elias stood, a quiet command in his posture, extending his hand toward me. We'll be right back, he assured her, though the unspoken weight of our shared words promised much, much more than just a brief retreat. With a hesitant glance towards Mia and a racing heart, I took his hand. Elias's touch sent a thrill up my spine, an electric jolt echoing through my fingertips. He led me through the narrow corridors of the ship, the distant thrum of the party fading as we entered the more secluded rear deck. Cold air slicked against my skin, shocking yet exhilarated me. Our surroundings transformed into an intimate cocoon, distant icebergs glistening under the moonlight, silent witnesses to the tension brewing between us. Zuri, he started, and the weight of my name on his lips sent a tremor through my body. He stepped closer, his breath mingling with the crisp nighttime air. You have to understand that I'm not just your collaborator. I care about you, deeply. But we're working together. I don't want my personal feelings to cloud my decisions. They won't. But you don't have to keep holding back. It was a challenge, a silent dare floating between us, igniting with each breath. I want your passion in my life, he stated simply, his voice low and rich, like the whiskey we'd shared moments earlier. I met his gaze, drawn in like a moth to a flame. Elias. Before I could bring my thoughts into shape, he closed the gap between us entirely. In one fluid motion, he gathered me into him with a heat that defied the chill of the Antarctic night. He descended upon me, and my heart leaped. His lips ignited a fire across my skin that threatened to consume me whole. It was electric, intoxicating. My body responded, melting into him as his hands sank into my hair and the firm curves of my waist. I surrendered to him, to the urgency radiating from every inch of him, the desperation only mirroring my own. His kiss was hungry yet gentle, a coaxing that demanded a response from the depths of my being. I felt alive, aware of every sensation, the rough texture of the wooden deck beneath my feet, the biting chill wrapping around us, the taste of whiskey still lingering on our tongues, mingling with desire. A distant growl of ice cracking pulled me momentarily from the grip of our passion, a reminder of our precarious surroundings, the looming sabotage already washing through my mind like an impending storm. But Elias took a step closer, brushing his fingers along my jawline, and that singular action swept away all caution, allowing the rush of instinct to overtake submission. Zuri, he whispered, his breath warm against my skin. Let me take you beyond pain. Let me show you how I feel. A surge of mead surged through me, raw and thrilling. I nodded, breathless, as his lips found my neck, tracing paths that ignited the molten desire pooling in my core. The world slipped away. Only he and I existed, two souls entwined against the biting cold, hidden away from prying eyes, yet bared to the depths of our unspoken longings. Elias, my voice quivered, a subtle declaration of intent, as his lips returned to mine, claiming me, not just the moment, but the very essence of who we were together. This was more than passion. It was a communion of souls eager to conquer mountains, both internal and external. "You can trust me," he murmured against my mouth, threading his fingers through my hair as if showcasing his belief in me. "I know," I replied softly between kisses that wove urgency into every touch. This was our moment, where nothing else mattered. Just the pure heat radiating between us. And in that heady embrace, I let myself surrender, weaving a path deeper into the blazing storm of our desire, where trust and passion collided, coalescing into a brilliant tapestry of longing that threatened to engulf us both whole. The world outside faded completely. Even the cold winds could not pierce the fiery warmth igniting within me, as Elias held me tighter. And I learned that sometimes to be teetering on the brink is simply to be rushing headlong into everything I had ever wanted. Chapter 37. Heart to Heart. The faint hum of the ship vibrating beneath my feet was comforting, like a heartbeat. The walls were lined with the polished mahogany of the expedition's lounge, rich and warm, contrasting with the frigid winds howling outside. Sunlight streamed through expansive windows, casting prisms of light that danced across the lacquered floor, illuminating the delicate jewelry strewn out on my work table. Each piece, a labor of love and sheer will, was intended to inspire. But today, they only served to amplify the chaos swirling in my heart. I absent-mindedly manipulated a delicate pendant, a sapphire teardrop that caught the light beautifully, while my mind was miles away, tangled in thoughts of Elias. Just last night, he had promised to meet me in the lounge. I had watched him from a distance, his casual elegance stirring me in ways I didn't quite understand. Now, as I sat here, crafting pieces that represented the depth of my independence, I felt an unsettling thrill at the thought of vulnerability he brought out of me. "Zuri!" A bright, familiar voice broke through my thoughts. My best friend, Lena, strode into the lounge, her presence lively and resolute, dressed in a vibrant wool scarf. "There you are. The others are starting to worry you're holed up in here and might be missing all the fun." I started, but the words hung in the air. "Polishing your creative genius?" Lena quirked an eyebrow, striding closer. "Or obsessing over Elias?" I let out a small laugh, but felt a pulse of heat rising to my cheeks. "I'm just working, Lena. This trip has been excellent for business, and my head is clearer in this frigid wonderland than it was back home. Who wouldn't thrive in paradise? You get to sip fine wine while surrounded by icebergs and stunning views. And," she leaned in with a conspiratorial whisper, "Elias is exactly the kind of man you deserve. Powerful, intelligent, and that smile. When he looks at you, the man could melt ice." With a playful shove, I rolled my eyes, but felt the flutter deep in my stomach at the truth of her words. "Lena, he's complicated. You don't even know half of it. And you don't know what could happen if you gave the man a chance. Just look at how he manhandles those pieces of ice on the ship, like they're nothing. I suspect there's a lot more to him than meets the eye. I can handle complicated, believe me." I reached for the sapphire teardrop, my fingers grazing its smooth surface, my mind half-heartedly mulling over my previous relationship and the way it had left scars I was still gingerly navigating. Before I could finish, Elias entered the lounge, tousled hair and casual gait emanating ease. He stopped short at the sight of both Lena and me, a smirk breaking across his face. "Ladies, I hope I'm not interrupting an important conference." "Just dishing about you, of course." Lena shot me an amused glance before her expression turned earnest. "But you know what, Elias? We were just discussing how much your sweeping charm has Zuri a bit flustered." "Flustered, huh?" He stepped closer, his voice mock serious, still somehow laced with the tension that rippled beneath. Is it giving you that sweet feeling that you're powerless to resist? The way he said it sent a thrill racing down my spine. I exchanged a glance with Lena, who wore a knowing smile. You don't know the half of it, I said, my voice rising just an octave too high. Elias arched an eyebrow. Oh? Then perhaps we should explore that. He moved around the table, his mere proximity stirring something feral within me, the neon lights of his aura flickering to life. Careful, Lena teased, backing away toward the bar. We wouldn't want emotions to run too high in a frigid setting. Maybe the cold is just the catalyst we need, I retorted, wrestling with my growing nerves and the heated tension simmering in the air between us. Let's find out. Elias took the delicate sapphire teardrop from my hands, his fingers brushing my palm, sending an electric shock through my veins. Do you think that just because you're charming, I'll bend to your will? I challenged, feigning nonchalance. I know you won't. He moved closer, the warmth of his presence disarming. But that's what's fascinating, Zuri. The tension between who you are and who I feel you can be. Lena cleared her throat, her eyes sparkling with mischief. I'm going to leave you two to this delightful dance. Just call me when you need a referee. Lena, I called, but she waved a hand, retreating to the bar with a cheeky grin, leaving Elias and me alone amidst the beating silence that the ship's hum couldn't quite relieve. I tried to maintain my composure as he studied me, his gaze like a warm flame licking at my hesitation. Fire and ice, huh? More like fire and fear, I replied, the truth slipping past my lips before I could filter it. The ship creaked, and I could feel the tension rising, palpable between us. What are you afraid of, Zuri? His voice lowered to a whisper, simmering with a confidence I both admired and envied. The past. I stepped back, breaking the rhythm of our escalating conversation. And the notion of letting someone in again. You don't understand what it feels like to have someone you trust betray you. I understand betrayal all too well. His voice grew quieter, rougher at the edges, as if confessing the deepest recesses of his heart. Trust isn't just about the surface. It's about knowing the other person is worth the leap. How can I leap when my wings are still clipped? My heart raced, each beat a reminder of the walls I had built since my last relationship. Sometimes. Slowly he stepped toward me, bridging the space that felt both intimidating and exhilarating. You don't need wings, just a partner. I laughed softly, but the sound felt tight in my throat. And what if you fall? What if you fail? Then we'll crash together, but I promise you this. Zuri life may tempt you to shut me out, but invite me in. I will make it worth your while. The intensity of our exchange caught my breath, silencing the small voices of doubt whispering in my mind. I fidgeted, my fingers grazing the pendant as his gaze bore into me. Doesn't matter if it's cold outside, just imagine the warmth we can create, he insinuated, the promise in his tone hanging in the air like a heady perfume. But, no more buts, he interjected, brimming with intent. I need to know you're willing to embrace it, Zuri. Not just the passion, but the messiness, even the complexities. With every word he spoke, my body ignited with that fervor I had long suppressed. The air shimmered, thick with an undercurrent of anticipation. I stepped closer, reaching for the edge of the table, glancing up at him through my lashes. Let's tackle it together, he murmured, leaning close enough for me to breathe in the mahogany notes of his cologne, rich and earthy, drawing me nearer. I finally closed the distance. And if you hurt me again, I won't. I promise. The sincerity in his deep eyes convinced me momentarily, and I felt my heart flip within my chest. Then let's find warmth in our cold realities, I whispered against his lips, as I crushed the last pieces of doubt lingering between us. Elias's warm breath ghosted against my skin, before I surrendered, succumbing to the heat radiating from his body. He captured my face in his hands, and the intensity of his gaze sent me spiraling. In that moment, the world fell away, leaving only the raw electric charge that danced between us. With an urgency that had been long dormant, I leaned in, meeting his kiss, which consumed me in an inferno of passion. His lips were soft yet demanding, igniting every nerve in my body as his hand slid around my waist, anchoring me against the counter. "Zuri," he breathed between kisses, pulling me impossibly closer. Breathless laughter escaped me, fueling this delicious moment. "Are you sure about the messiness, Mr. Carter?" "Absolutely. I relish the chaos. Now, can we stop talking before I pull this table apart?" His hand tangled in my hair as he spun us around, pinning me against the cool surface. The juxtaposition of the icy exterior and the burning path of his lips only heightened the intoxicating whirl of a new world unfurling before us. "Let's start with the messy part," I challenged, taking the reins for a second as I leaned closer, my heart racing again under the weight of possibilities. "Now you're speaking my language," he murmured, his lips curling into a smirk, enticing and inviting. And just like that, the stakes transformed. Not just passion, but a promise, a shared ride across the icy landscape of our new beginning. A heart-to-heart entwined within the chaos of our desires, where surrender became an act of courage. As the murmurs of the ship sang in the background, I understood this moment was more than just lust. It was a crossroads, a chance to unravel, ignite, and soar. There was nothing colder than regret. And in this heated dance, I was finally ready to embrace the fire. Chapter 38. An Unexpected Alliance. I stood on the deck of the Antarctic expedition ship, the icy winds tearing through my layers of thermal clothing, biting at my cheeks. The vast expanse of snow and ice surrounded us, a rugged, unforgiving terrain stretching endlessly into the horizon. Underneath the blanket of unforgiving frost lay the treacherous challenges we were yet to face. And yet, amidst it all, an unsettling thrill coursed through me. I couldn't shake the feeling that danger and opportunity danced perilously close together in this frozen landscape. "Elias," I called out, wrapping my arms around myself to ward off both the cold and the tension that crackled between us. The moment he turned, the sunlight glinting off the ice crystals caught the sharp angles of his face, framing him as a deity carved from the very mountains that loomed around us. I felt an involuntary shiver, not just from the chill. He approached, his dark eyes shadowed with intensity. "Zuri, we need to talk." "Can't it wait? I'm kind of busy." I was feigning nonchalance that the erratic thunder of my heart gave me away. Busy plotting with the enemy, or busy kissing him? There was an edge in his voice, a simmering jealousy that I couldn't help but find amusing, even as it unsettled me. I smirked, shrugging my shoulders dramatically. "Oh, you know me. A little bit of treachery never hurt anyone." Elias took a step closer, the space between us diminishing, and the wind carried the scent of his cologne, a blend of sandalwood and something spicy that made it hard to focus on anything else. "You might be playing a dangerous game," he murmured, his voice low, suggesting an intimacy beneath the tension. Light laughter erupted from the corner of the deck where our friends lounged, partially shielded by the ship's railings. Avery, my best friend since college, had huddled against Reed, both of them bundled against the cold, but utterly engaged in their own dynamic drama. "Let's just hope her game involves less betrayal and more murder mystery," Avery called, her eyes twinkling mischievously. "Hey, if I go down, I want it to be in an epic fashion," I shot back, unable to contain the flare of gaiety. Reed adjusted his beanie, biting into a gourmet sandwich, and grinned. "Zuri's always looking to spice things up, right?" Elias's gaze shifted to them momentarily, a subtle flicker of pride surfacing in his otherwise steely demeanor. "You've always had a flair for melodrama, Zuri," he said, folding his arms, but his voice softened, revealing a hidden admiration that only fanned the flame within me. "Only because I'm writing my own story. Yours truly is currently on a quest for an unexpected alliance," I replied, keeping my tone light but my intent serious. "Kind of poetic," he acknowledged, squinting against the sun. "So who's the prospective ally? One of the marauders lurking on this ship?" A cold knot formed in my stomach as I thought of Tarek, one of the marauders, who had begun to show signs of wavering loyalty toward his crew. You might be surprised, but Tarek could be our best bet. He knows their weaknesses. Elias's expression darkened. Tarek? Are you out of your mind? He's the one who wants to sabotage this mission. That's precisely why we need him, I argued, taking a daring step forward to meet his gaze. Sometimes it takes the enemy to rout the enemy. Or lead you straight into a trap, he warned, his voice dropping. I can't lose you, Zuri. The protectiveness wrapped around each word, pulling me closer, yet the intensity of his concern ignited my resolve. The winds howled under a blanket of frigid air, wrapping around us as if the landscape itself was a character in our unfolding drama. You won't lose me, Elias, I replied, my voice firm. But we're running out of time. They'll strike first if we don't act. Just then, the dynamic shifted. A few feet away, I noticed Tarek, his lean figure emerging from the shadows. As if drawn by our conversation, he approached with an air of casual confidence, a smirk dancing on his lips. The tension jumped up a notch, and I took a breath, letting it quiver out. Talking about me? Tarek asked with a playful lilt, standing too close for comfort. Elias's stance hardened. That depends. Are you here to make trouble or actually help? Why not both? Tarek grinned, unfazed by Elias's intensity. But if we're looking for a collaboration, I think we need terms, like a gentlemanly agreement. I don't trust you, Tarek, I said, my voice steady. But I trust your knowledge. Let's not muddle things with pleasantries. His eyes flickered, intrigued by my directness. What's in it for me when I do help? You're not the only one with ambition, Zuri. Oh, I know, I replied, my competitive spirit igniting. Let's not pretend you're not one step away from getting kicked off this ship yourself. Help us, and I'll make sure you don't just leave with your life intact, but with something to show for it. What are you proposing? Tarek leaned in, drawn to the ferocity lighting up my expression. I'm proposing a partnership temporary. We take down the ones truly pulling the strings, and in return, you get out of this mess with your freedom and dignity intact. Elias radiated tension beside me, his guarded posture a silent warning. Tarek isn't the type to honor any code of trust, Zuri. Neither am I, Tarek shot back, a glimmer of mischief in his eye, sending my heart racing. But I accept your offer. As Tarek retracted a gloved hand toward me, I gripped it firmly, sealing the unexpected alliance. I couldn't help but feel exhilarated as I met Elias's glare over Tarek's shoulder. This is getting complicated, he murmured. But there was no mistaking the admiration lacing his voice. Suddenly the tension crackled, a raw kindling of something deeper, brewing beneath the frost, like magma beneath the surface. Complicated can be fun, I replied, smirking back at Elias. A gust of wind swirled around us, lifting Tarek's messy hair and sending chills down my spine. Caught in this game of alliances and unspoken desires, I felt the ice between Elias and me begin to thaw. You think this is fun? Tarek leaned in, a deep laugh rumbling from within. Zuri, this isn't just a game anymore. The stakes are real. Trust me, Tarek, I said. I play to win. As we exchanged plans, the chaos enveloping this expedition began to feel like a thrilling adventure. Elias remained vigilant beside me, yet there was a newfound spark of respect in his eyes, an acknowledgement of my ambition, my strength. Just don't get too carried away with the theatrics, he whispered, brushing against me, threatening to ignite the embers already rising between us. I won't always be around to save you. Why would I want to be saved when I could be living my best life? I challenged, sensing the unyielding chemistry pulling us closer together like a magnet. Why not both? He asked, a teasing smile playing at his lips. You clearly thrive in chaos. Stop underestimating me, Elias, I shot back, feeling the weight of my words. I am chaos, and I'm just getting started. As Tarek regaled us with tales of the marauders and their plans, the laughter floated around us, an ironic edge guiding the stories. I felt a current stirring beneath the surface, both exhilarating and dangerous. The frost that had once felt suffocating now seemed electrifying. Yet even as we plotted our strategy, the heat between Elias and me threatened to combust, my heart racing at the thought of what came next. The stage was set for an exciting showdown, but it was also set for passion to enter the fray. That night, as the ship creaked gently against the ice, I found solace in Elias's cabin. The flickering light cast dancing shadows across the walls, and the scent of him, of warmth and unyielding strength, enveloped my senses. "Zuri," Elias began, his voice thick, hands framing my face, making sure I held his gaze. The electric charge between us ignited. "No more games. Can you handle that?" With every ounce of resolve coiling in my heart, I stepped closer, desire swirling in the air between us like a tangible force, raw and undeniable. "Handle? Oh, Elias, I have always been a master of my own chaos." As we came together, his lips meeting mine with a ferocity that left me breathless, the world beyond fell away. All that existed was the heat of our unification, a stark contrast to the world we dared to face outside. "Then let's make this worth it," he murmured against my lips. And in that moment, with the chains of our busy lives slipping away, I surrendered fully to the tidal wave of emotion and physical desire we ignited together. Outside, the winds howled, but inside, surrounded by passion and chaos, I felt fiercely alive. For this unexpected alliance was only just the beginning. The thrill of the storm hadn't yet reached its peak. Chapter 39. Colliding Dreams. I stood in the cramped workspace of the ship's makeshift design studio, the walls adorned with sketches and blueprints swaying lightly from the ceiling's vibration. The pungent scent of metal and wood mixed with the faint whiff of sea air slipping through the plastic-sealed windows. My fingers trembled slightly as they traced the edge of the latest design, a cunningly structured trap based on the delicate movements of the albatross, a breathtaking bird of the Southern Ocean. I named it the Albatross Snare, a glimmer of hope amid the icy blackness surrounding us. "Zuri," Elijah's voice echoed through the narrow corridor, jolting me from my focused reverie. The urgency in his tone had become a familiar alarm, one that often heralded impending chaos. I turned to meet him, finding Elias just outside the door, a silhouette against the pale corridor light. His brow was furrowed, a storm brewing behind those dark eyes, so deep, so knowing. Even in the midst of our escalating crisis, the way he embodied intensity made my heart race. I took a deep breath, trying to steady the thrill that always coursed through me at his appearance. "What is it?" I noticed how my voice wavered, a slight crack I couldn't hide. "There's been another sighting of the Marauders. We can't wait. We need to mobilize your designs now." As if on cue, the distant sound of shouting floated through the ship's halls, a reminder that time was evaporating. I slipped the plans into my binder with a rush, a flurry of movement, accompanied by the adrenaline coursing through me. "Let's see them," he insisted, his voice low but charged. "Fine," I snapped back, frustration bubbling beneath my surface. "But my designs won't matter if we're just going to stand around screaming." Elias stepped closer, the air thickening between us, a magnetic pull of heat. I could almost taste his resolve, sharp like fresh ginger, igniting my veins. "You're right, but I need you to trust me, just like before." Silence enveloped us, thick and suffocating. For a moment, I stood frozen, our breaths mingling in the chill air, the reality of our shared uncertainty hanging between us. The silence was heavy, brimming with unsaid words, and yet it thrummed with passion, the kind we skirted around like a tantalizing edge. "I'm not some naive recruit, Elias. I know what's at stake. I have to do this my way." The tension between my ambition and my vulnerability crackled like static, refusing to dissipate. "Your way," he began, then paused, a shallow inhalation as his gaze bore into mine. "You think it won't be my way as well? This is our only shot at making sure they don't destroy everything we've built on this expedition." "And what if it fails?" My voice dropped to a whisper, the fear creeping forth like a chilling mist. "My designs are bold, yes, but boldness can lead to disaster. Then let's ensure that disaster doesn't happen, he replied, stepping closer still. The weight of his presence wrapped around me like a heavy cloak, both comforting and unsettling. Show me. Just as I was about to retort, laughter erupted from the hallway. Not the comfortable laughter of camaraderie, but the raucous kind that usually preceded wild chaos. We shared a quick glance, a silent agreement dancing between us. Let's get to it then. I stepped forward, the metallic tingle of purpose igniting my insides. But you have to promise to follow my lead. Always. His gaze stayed steady, unwavering. Before we could relay the plan, Kaya, Elias's cousin and our eclectic team member, eavesdropped from the entrance, her face bursting into a grin. Oh, please tell me I just walked in on some kind of lover's quarrel. This ship could use a little romance. I rolled my eyes, an involuntary smile breaking through the heat of our argument. Shut it, Kaya. We're saving the world over here. Right. If by saving the world you mean a heated debate over who gets to take charge of this white elephant swamp, she declared, swooping into the room, hands on her hips. I'm not going to let them just take our designs. I felt my passion ignite once more, gesturing emphatically at the drawings laid out over the table. With this, we can lead them right into a trap. They might have guns, but we have brains, she shot back with a wink. For Kaya, this moment was an invitation for banter. A well-worn trick that never failed to lighten our burdens. Not to mention your killer aesthetic. I mean, look at these. She waved her arm over my meticulous sketches, her voice dripping with mock admiration. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you're just trying to one-up my fashion sense when it comes to weapons. Ha! You know my battle gear is all about practicality, I quipped back, half laughing. But if it makes my enemies look like they lost a fight with a jewelry box, then so be it. Elias chuckled, shaking his head. Only you could manage to make conflict sound so elegant. Wait until you see it in action, I responded, a fizzling anticipation buzzing beneath my skin. The playful atmosphere slowly diffused the tension, allowing me to breathe again as I moved to the whiteboard, ready to finalize our strategy. Grabbing a marker, I sketched another outline, a vision coalescing in my mind. If they think we're clumsy little jewelers fearing their brute force, they're sorely mistaken. The crew slowly gathered, forming a semicircle around us. Each engaged face held the weight of our mission, and I felt the spark of warmth blooming in unexpected corners of my heart. Together, we were an unflagging champion of dreams, bursting against the horizon of adversity. As I finalized the array of traps, I noticed Elias again, his unwavering gaze seemingly unearthing every secret I held deep inside. You believe in this? He asked quietly, when the others faded into their own discussions. I have to. My voice came out steadier than I expected, a firm conviction nestling within me. The hazel light from the overhead lamp caught his features, revealing the deep lines etched into his brow. What about us? He pressed, his tone strained but sincere. My heart hammered in my chest, a symphony of confusion and thrill. We can't afford distractions, not right now. He took a half step closer. You think we're a distraction? No, I paused, weighing my words carefully. I just don't want to complicate what we're building. Zuri, he said, softening, the weight of his intensity melting into something gentler. You and I, we're not built on complications. We're built on trust. The air around us stilled, as though even the ship paused to witness our exchange. Trust doesn't come easy for me, I confessed, feeling the vulnerability pour forth like an unexpected tide. It doesn't have to be easy, just real. He reached for my hand, his fingers weaving through mine, grounding me with a pulse of warmth that seemed to numb the sharp edges of doubt. And in that moment, I wasn't just fighting for survival, or for our team. I was fighting for us, this immeasurable connection thrumming beneath the ice. I wanted to translate this fervor into something tangible, something worthy of the battle ahead. A shout from Kaya broke the momentary spell. All right, lovebirds, enough with the googly eyes. We have plans to make. I grinned at Elias. the sudden urgency stirring the air. Ready? Always. With our designs sharpened and our hearts brave, we forged an alliance stronger than steel, steady and forged under pressure. Yet as the chaos around us continued to brew, I couldn't shake the tension swimming below the surface. A flicker of uncertainty mingled with the promise of a tempestuous intimacy not yet embraced. As the meeting closed, Elias leaned closer, his breath brushing against my ear. Later, just you and me. The weight of the promise hinged on that simple turn, a whisper against the ferocity of the world yet to unfold. I nodded weakly, heat flooding my cheeks, the thoughts of our joining later igniting my spirit. Let's show them what we've got. As we broke from the huddle, ready to stand against the marauders, I held on to the tantalizing notion of our own collision amidst the ice and danger. A beautiful and tumultuous storm awaited, and I was too intoxicated by the prospect to turn back. And with that thought lingering like frost on my lips, it was clear. If dreams were meant to collide, I wanted to dance in the glow of the results. Chapter 40. Sleeping with the Enemy. The ship creaked under the weight of impending chaos, its icy grip resonating with every shudder through the elaborate mahogany panels that adorned the dining room. Beams of pale, wavering light flickered from the overhead lamps, casting elongated shadows that danced across the polished floor, mirroring the turmoil roiling inside me. Outside, the relentless wind howled against the hull, a soundtrack of fears and uncertainties, while the icy blue landscape yawned infinitely in every direction. I stood next to the grand window, my breath fogging the glass, as the weight of my choices crashed over me like an Antarctic wave. The sight outside, the jagged peaks of ice rising like teeth across an unforgiving abyss, was striking, yet it could hardly compete with the tumult already echoing in my heart. Elias was out there, somewhere in this labyrinth of treachery, muscle and confidence simmering beneath his calm surface. And so, too, was my former mentor Malcolm, who had once been my guiding star, now turned into the very thing I dreaded most. Zuri, the taut voice of Daphne, cut through my spiraling thoughts. She was the master of sharp retorts and impenetrable confidence. And at this moment, she looked red-hot, with curls framing her face like a crown. She pointed sharply towards the dining room table littered with sketch papers and colored stones. "What is taking you so long? This isn't a social call." "Daphne, it's complicated," I replied, still not tearing my gaze from the window. "I need to gather my thoughts." "Gather your thoughts? You mean you're too busy fantasizing about Elias?" She chuckled, her laughter warming the air around us. "No offense, but this isn't the time for daydreams. There's more at stake here, love. We're on the verge of being attacked by marauders." "Right. The marauders." I grabbed the edge of the windowsill, my knuckles whitening as the truth of my situation slapped my mind awake. Those marauders, with their hidden agendas and veiled threats, were a menace we could not afford to be complacent about. Yet the deeper menace lurked closer to home, wrapping itself around my heart like a vine that refused to be pruned. Elias and Malcolm stood on opposite ends of that urgent vine. Then I felt another presence at my side. Elias. He was warm, powerful, enveloping in a way that made the threat of our reality recede momentarily. "You're not trying to think your way out of this one, are you?" His breath brushed against my hair, sending a dizzying sensation racing down my spine. I turned slightly, lifting my chin to search his gaze for the unguarded warmth that was both intoxicating and terrifying. "No," I said abruptly, then, under my breath, "But I wish I could. I thought you were—" I hesitated, trying to find the words that wouldn't make me sound utterly foolish. "I thought you were on my side." Elias leaned in, angling his body closer, so that only the whisper of space separated us. "Zuri, I've always been on your side, but loyalty and war, those lines often blur." He reached forward, his fingers brushing against mine, electrifying me like the static of our surroundings. "Would you say that to Malcolm?" My words hung between us, thick as fog, filled with the weight of betrayal and lingering trust. He had saved me when I was at my lowest, and yet here he was intertwined with a professional rival. A flicker danced in his eyes, an indecipherable blend of frustration and admiration. "Let's not play games right now," he responded, his tone gravely yet controlled. "If Malcolm is who I think he is, we're dealing with a much larger threat than just marauders. He's more than a mentor, Zuri. He's a snake in the grass." "Elias, no, he's not a snake." I flared anew, but immediately regretted the defensiveness that infected my voice. "He was there for me when no one else was." My admission came out soft, breathy. "Were you not paying attention? He's been playing puppet master with your career," Elias said through clenched teeth, a spark of danger surfacing in his composed demeanor. I could feel the surge of emotions in him pulling him tight, yet allowing his passion to bleed through. "You can't let him manipulate you any longer." Daphne, overhearing this exchange, leaned back and crossed her arms, a half-smirk resting on her lips. "Tension between the two of you is palpable. It's almost romantic." Her commentary sliced through the gravity of the situation like a well-timed joke, a reminder that we were multitasking between survival and corporate sabotage while also entangled in emotional warfare. "Romantic?" I huffed, frustration bubbling. "This is serious." I jabbed a finger at the dining room table scattered with sketches. "You know what he can do. He'll ruin everything I've worked for." "I know, Zuri, but you have us, and trust me, I'm looking to shake the tree," Daphne chimed, her fierce loyalty igniting a flicker of hope. "We'll figure it out. Just focus on keeping yourself safe." "What do you mean, shake the tree?" Elias shifted, turning his attention from me to Daphne, his brows arched in challenge, his expression darkening into something unreadable. She waved him off. "Oh, please, darling, you don't want to know how far my little fingers are willing to reach. Right now, I'm more worried about watching my back and yours, my beautiful friends." She raised her Rocky Mountain Dew, her eyes shimmering with mischief. "Let's face it, even when we're tipping the balance, excitement is a good thing, huh?" Before I could respond, a loud crash resonated from across the ship, sending us all into immediate alert. The lights flickered, and in that instant, the air thickened with an electrifying mix of apprehension and adrenaline. "Did you hear that?" I gasped. "Stay close," Elias commanded as he grasped my arm, his grip firm yet tender, anchoring me against the tide of uncertainty swirling around us. Malcolm's voice echoed through the corridors, deep and booming, calling us into the heart of what felt like chaos unspooling. "Zuri, Elias, we need to regroup." Another crash rang out, this time accompanied by panicked shouts that rippled like wildfire in dry grass. I could feel my heart rate quicken as our gazes darted toward the door, uncertainty weaving together with the thrill that had begun to thrum between us. "We have to move," Elias urged, his tone laced with urgency. But as I turned to follow him, a strange pull halted me. "Wait," I blurted, my mind racing as the presence of Malcolm and what could soon become an impossible confrontation dawned. What if he's right? What if this could unravel everything? "I'll protect you," Elias promised, as if hearing the fear thrumming in my chest. "I trusted Malcolm once, though," I murmured, torn between two loyalties that threatened to rip apart at the seams. Elias stepped closer, as if to breach the invisible wall standing between us. "And how did that turn out for you?" His voice softened, becoming almost intimate, an electric undercurrent drifting across the space between us. "Eli," I started but faltered, caught between memories of mentorship and unfurling desires. Before I could articulate what the connection between us had morphed into, the tension between us snapped. He cupped the back of my neck, drawing me in closer, his lips brushing dangerously close to my ear. "Zuri, trust me," he whispered, exuding a fierce protectiveness. "No matter what happens outside, we'll face it together." In that charged moment, surrounded by uncertainty, the magnetic gravity between us erupted into a collision of breath and warmth, our chemistry igniting like friction overcoming ice. I leaned into him, surrendering to the intense heat that flared up, the world around us drowning into the background hush that bore no other sound but our shared breaths. "This could very well be the worst decision we make," I murmured, against the steady cadence of the storm beyond the ship, my pulse racing way beyond what common sense deemed wise. "Or the fortress we build." His voice was a deep, confident caress against my skin, and I lost myself in the cauldron of hunger swirling between us. Our lips brushed, the lightest of touches, a promise of what was to come. But then my brain caught up with the moment. I sidestepped him with a desperate breath. "Just wait. The marauders. Malcolm." Forget about Malcolm. His closeness was all-consuming. This isn't just about him, and you know it. But the protest was all but swallowed as he captured me again, his hands threading through my hair, while his lips took mine, fierce and slow, exploring like they had been waiting for this very moment for a lifetime. I melted into him, a burgeoning ache igniting all the anguish bubbling beneath the surface, a yearning awakened I couldn't fully comprehend. We broke apart, panting, our breaths mingling as the urgency of the world outside began to creep in. "This can't happen now," I sighed, shaking my head even as my heart begged against the logic. "Why not?" He nudged my chin up, our eyes locking, each pulse palpable. "We are alive, Zuri, and it's as thrilling as it is terrifying." The walls around me trembled. "Elias, we're in danger," I exclaimed, but urgency faded under the tidal force of his presence. "Not from each other," he pressed, his voice low with intent. "We're only victims of navigating fear." I could feel adrenaline coursing through me, a cocktail of fear and fierce defiance, but I was caught. He was right. But Malcolm was a different kind of enemy entirely, and chaos was threading through the corridors, closing in on our sanctuary. "Together," Elias whispered, bridging the gap in one sweeping motion, "we are stronger together." And just like that, I nodded and drew him back against me, surrendering against the storm within, the intricacies of our boldness, the weight of danger looming. Because in this moment, amidst the whirlwind of uncertainty, love truly could conquer all. Yet in the tip of that reality hung a wisp of treachery. Would I be strong enough to sever the ties to Malcolm for good? As I pulled away, searching his eyes, a thought flickered violently in my head, a fleeting echo of all that I was fighting against. "Promise me," I challenged lightly, grounding myself amidst the tide, "that when it's all said and done, we aren't the enemy." Elias smiled, crooking an eyebrow, a threat interlaced with desire. "You and me, darling, we'll make sure we tip the scales in our favor." And free from all apprehension, we charged ahead into the gathering storm, ready to face whatever came next. In the distance, Malcolm's voice echoed, but as we crossed the threshold, it barely reached us, a mere whisper against the symphony of our endeavor. Swallowing hard, I took a resolute breath as we plunged into the fray, ready to write a new story in this unpredictable, frozen landscape together. Chapter 41. Undercover Operations. "So what's the plan, 007? You're going to charm information right out of them?" Elias teased, a half-smirk lifting the corner of his mouth as he leaned against the matte black wall of the corridor for effect. The dim lighting of the ship's passageway flickered overhead, casting shadows that danced mockingly around us. "Not exactly," I replied, adjusting the collar of my faux fur coat, feeling the plush fabric brush against my skin, a small shield against the frigid air swirling beyond our flimsy walls. "But you're right about one thing. I will need charm and luck." Elias narrowed his eyes, watching me with that mix of intrigue and concern I had come to expect. "Luck won't be enough with those techies. They're a motley crew of code junkies. They don't trust easily, especially with you lurking around," I cut in, a teasing lilt to my voice that attempted to mask my rising anxiety. The stakes were high. Our rivals hadn't hidden their desire to see my carefully built ambitions crash and burn. But there was something invigorating about the icy thrill of danger. "Exactly. Elias shook his head, a playful annoyance evident. They're gonna look at me and see a threat, not a friend. And here I thought you thrived off being a threat. He took a step forward, closing the distance, the heat of his presence wrapping around me like the warmth of the high-quality brandy we had shared earlier that evening. What if I refuse to let you do this alone? Zuri, you can't just throw yourself into danger like… I am not throwing myself anywhere. I could hear the pressure creeping into my voice and felt my heart unexpectedly quickening. I'm going to gather intel. This is just a lead, a chance to dig deeper. His gaze sharpened, revealing a hidden vulnerability I had never quite seen before, a desperate protectiveness, if I dared say. But what if they catch you? What if they go for you, not just the project? His voice dropped, low and serious, sending a shiver of apprehension dancing down my spine. Then I hope you have a backup plan, Mr. Carter, I replied, attempting levity even as a knot twisted in my throat. Backup plans are for when no one pays attention to you. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. It's making them look your way that concerns me. The charged air between us crackled, and I inadvertently brushed against him, feeling the sharp angles of his precision-tailored suit beneath my fingers. A reminder of the man beneath the surface, serious, protective, tauntingly ambitious. Then let's give them a show, I said softly, glancing up at him as butterflies erupted in my stomach. What was this exhilarating push and pull we danced? You're certain you won't regret this later? His question hung between us, heavy with the ghost of our past follies. Our chemistry was intoxicating, volatile, a potent mix of desire and ambition. Regret? Regret is for the faint of heart. I smiled confidently, but the truth clawed at my insides. At worst, it'll help me learn where I stand. Elias's gaze softened, the flicker of the hallway lights casting him in divine hues. You want to know where you stand, Zuri? I think you're about to discover exactly what it means to play with fire. Or ice, I countered, my playful demeanor keeping up with our escalating tension. But let's be honest, you're just jealous because I actually have a shot at getting the address of their dang server. Not jealous, he replied, his tone more playful than sincere. Concerned. Fine. Concern does sound better than jealousy. I feigned innocent brilliance and he let out a low chuckle, the sound energy enveloping me. All right, let's do this, he said, straightening with an air of determination. But if anything goes sideways, I will take care of my backside, he finished, eyes warming despite the frost lingering outside. Don't get cocky, Carter, I warned, though it came out softer than I intended. I stepped around him, heading toward the door leading to the main deck. Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you. You're too what? I shot back, turning with an arch of my brow. Raw, unsettling, too fierce. He held my gaze, and I felt the gravity shift. It was suddenly harder to breathe. Fierce enough to push this ship into deeper waters, I hope. I forced a smile, unsure of why my pulse raced, or if that gleam in his eyes reflected admiration or something else entirely. As we stepped onto the frosty expanse, the hull of the luxury ship stood stoically against the relentless icy blanket of Antarctica. The howling wind whiffed around us, cutting through my coat, and I drew the faux fur tighter. You know, I called over the wind, the resemblance between us and the icebergs is uncanny. We both have hidden depths, fragile exteriors, and the potential to shatter spectacularly. Unless we take whatever threatens us down first. We made our way across the deck, where ropes tangled like thoughts in my head, a plethora of voices swirling around as crew members busied themselves setting up equipment. They were fixated on their tasks, unaware of the impending storm brewing in our midst. Hey, look who it is, shouted Jamal, his boisterous voice cutting through the barreling winds like a lively chef in a quiet kitchen. Wrapped in his navy puffer, he bounded toward us with an exuberant grin. If it isn't my favorite spy pair ready to embark on another secret mission. You could say that, I replied, with a playful roll of my eyes. We were just about to charm some techies and secure our intel. You want to join? Jamal's face lit up with amusement. Going undercover to outwit the enemy and steal their secrets? This is next level. And here we thought you two were just going to the sauna. Elias shot him a glare, his expression returning to that of a professional, the protective features returning like armor yet again. We don't have time for jokes, Jamal. It's serious out here. Serious? Jamal snorted, shaking his head. Man, you've never understood a good play on words, have you? And yet I still haven't met his match, I teased. And this ironically shifted some of the tension knotted in my stomach. Well, let me just say, my undercover skills are top-notch, Jamal continued, but I quickly took the lead, gesturing for Elias to back me up. I need you to keep watch on the perimeter, Jamal. Make sure we're not ambushed or stepped on by our precious tech engineers while I slip through the cracks, I pointed, excitement bubbling under my skin. Do I get to wear sunglasses and a trench coat? He laughed, pretending to tug up imaginary shades. Only if you promise not to embarrass us. Embrace the absurdity, Zuri, Elias chimed in, the corner of his lips tugging upward at our banter. I noted the warmth in his smile and its lingering effect on my nerves as I gestured to the port side of the ship, where the murmurs of conversation faded into nothing against the roar of the chill wind. We parted ways as Jamal jogged off to fulfill my orders, leaving Elias and me cloaked in the winter night. The thrill of our proximity inducing unexplained sparks on my skin. Let's head to the lounge and make this plan happen, he suggested, the melting ice between us increasing with each word. I nodded, allowing myself to relish another moment of his intoxicating embrace, one I had so often brushed aside. Soon we were nestled in the leather booth of the ship's lounge, the intimate dimness revealing nothing about the perils we faced, yet fixing our focus solely on the challenge ahead. A few drinks and idle chatter filled the space, but tension rode alongside us, thickening the air like the fog around the ship. Okay, so what's first? I asked, leaning forward, resting my elbows on the table. You'll need to invite someone from that tech team to dance with the devil. Is that your way of saying charm? My brows furrowed in mock disbelief. There's a bit of charm in seduction, Zuri. His gaze was piercing, as if holding a mirror to my ambitions, and I swallowed hard. Seduction it is, then. I leaned back a little, suddenly aware of the flicker of vulnerability edging in, the surface callback from earlier, slightly darker than I had intended. But if I fail? No one fails in my company. Elias reached over, his fingers brushing mine ever so unceremoniously, igniting a pulse of warmth that spread everywhere like flicked matches on dry tinder. Now, you'll need to give me more than just surface-level charm. Things can get complicated if we're not careful, I noted, trying to keep my tone light, even as palpable tension thrummed between us. Zuri, complexity is the only thing that makes sense in a world that loves to simplify passion. His words struck a chord, wrapping around me and igniting old fears of inhibited desire tangled in my bold ambitions. Right when I was about to anchor our banter, the lounge door swung open, and in stepped a tall techie, his face alight with surprise. Zuri Lawson, he called out, scanning the area until his gaze locked with mine. I didn't know you were here. Looks like my charming facade is working. Elias raised an eyebrow at me, an expression that dared me to say more. But I met him with confidence, thrusting myself into the social fray like a deep-sea swimmer, facing unfettered depths. Join us, I said smoothly, gesturing for the techie to come closer, uninterested in how Elias's protective gaze narrowed just a bit. I shouldn't, he stuttered before hesitating, the palpable intrigue around me drawing him in. Come on, I insisted. There's plenty to celebrate and discuss. You wouldn't want to turn down a chance to share ideas, would you? The pause stretched, and while uncertainty loomed in his eyes, he took a step forward. As I leaned back against the booth, my heart galloped, a curious exhilaration dancing through me, mixing with the electric tension radiating off Elias beside me. Moments slipped away as we chatted, laughter echoing off the ship's elegant decor, but even funny quips felt wedge-like at the edge of tension. I could feel Elias's eyes darting at the techie, a predatory fire dancing behind his gaze, yet he remained silent. The techie enthusiastically dropped bits of information, feeding into my aspirations, while Elias sat tight-lipped next to me, the undercurrent of jealousy unleashed, feral, yet it ignited something else, a heat pooling within. Heard you're working on a new design yourself, yeah? The techie chuckled, and I nodded, but Elias shifted slightly, his shoulder barely brushing mine. An invisible wall of concern built between us. Designer meets hacker. It's a match made in heaven, or perhaps hell, depending on what you vector, Elias interrupted, the grin on his face disarming yet fiercely protective. Right, the techie stammered, glancing from me to a much harder expression on Elias's face. I hear this project is huge, and I bet owners would be thrilled to revolutionize the market. Yes, they would, I chimed in, trying to maintain the momentum, but feeling Elias's tension slice deeply into the thread of our conversation. The techie leaned further, whispering, "What's the deal? It's not every day we see someone like you in this scene. Someone like me? Ambitious? Innovative? More like a stunning woman with a great taste on the business level," he added. And the moment the words left his mouth, I could feel Elias's body tighten, his jealousy a palpable force that enveloped us. Body language spoke louder than we could comprehend. Tension grew murky as my laughter died, caught in the undertow of Elias's intense demeanor. "Even better," Elias said coldly, injecting a wry tidbit. "I'm sure Zuri appreciates compliments on her intellect rather than other things more superficial." Superficial? The techie blinked. "I didn't mean—" "No, you didn't." Elias stood abruptly, the tension effortlessly swirling into a gale force wind. "I'd appreciate it then, if you excused us." The techie faltered, his eyes shifting back and forth as the spark of surprise flickered between the three of us. Before he could fabricate a response, I waved him off. "Right. Yes, thanks," I shot at him, my gaze narrowing in irritation as his expression flitted between confusion and shock. "We really need to get back to important discussions." As he took a few steps back, I glanced at Elias, and the heat in the air turned clammy and frigid, pallid, charged with bitterness. "What was that about?" I grasped, unwilling to let the cold tension settle. He faced me, a clash of furies behind his eyes, a ferocious fire. And against my internal dialogue, I found myself stepping forward into the barely contained storm. The space was tight, the air electric between us, and a rush of heat licked at my skin. "Nothing," he replied tersely, and I felt the acute ache of annoyance coiling tighter. "Nothing? I was building. Building? You were fishing, Zuri, and I won't just watch you toy with someone like that to prove your point." "Prove my point? You think I was doing this for you?" "Great. You've got it all figured out then," he shot back sharply, his eyes alive with a flame of fervor. The room fell silent, caught in a taut web spun between our mutual insecurities and the forces pulling us together and apart. "So you're going to protect me from a techie? Does my ambition threaten you that much?" I could feel the sharpness of my words cutting, but the resoluteness gripped me hard. Elias took a staggering breath, his attention drawn elsewhere, but his gaze was molten, tethered to the temporary chaos surrounding us. "No, Zuri, don't twist it like that." "Then tell me," I demanded, startling a nearby table, their laughter fading into whispers as they turned to watch. "Fine," he spat, running a hand through his hair with exasperation, his vulnerability unhinged like ice wilting under fire. "I'm protecting you from yourself. You don't even see it, do you?" "I see you challenging me. You might want to keep up." "You're diving headfirst into waters that are freezing, and I want you to recognize the way you're flirting with danger." Danger? The word hung in the air, both of us wrestling, testing the weight of strength in opposing corners, while passion simmered hot against the chill of the Antarctic night. "Don't play coy, Zuri," Elias said softly, his voice lowering. "I see you. Your fire, your ambition. It makes it painfully obvious how deep you want to push, how far you want to go. I'm not afraid, and I don't need your protection. Yet here we are." His voice felt like silk curling around me, wrapping my own budding flame back into its embers, not extinguishing it. "Why can't you just recognize my strength instead of trying to rein me in?" "Because I know the kind of waters you want to swim in." That silence was fracturing between us, sputtering like a flickering candle, illuminating the truth we both avoided, how desperately we wanted to seek refuge in each other, even in a connection so precariously poised on the edge of passion and instinct. "Is that so?" I said quietly, my breath mingling with the cold yet burning air. "You tell me." His voice turned softer, luring me closer, even as I pushed my treasure of strength in defiance. And that spark suddenly ignited flames. I leaned in, close enough to catch fragments of his breath. "You doubt me?" "Never." He blended my challenge with an equal part vulnerability. "But you know what happens when we tread this line." "This line," I repeated, capturing every pulse of tension, feeling his presence mix within me. Perhaps it was thrilling, deliciously dangerous. "It's a linchpin for us." And something shifted, a connection bridging us back to what we shared, an unshakable foundation aching to break free. "Maybe it is," I whispered, "but we can embrace it together." Our eyes met, hearts drifting dangerously close. "Only if you promise to stay cautious." "I can promise that," I answered just as he lunged, swiping the distance between us in one powerful motion, our lips crashing together like winter waves, meeting the edge of a shore. The taste of brandy mingled with heated breath, each kiss igniting flares of urgency. I lost count of the world around us. Elias's grip possessed me, tender yet intoxicatingly fierce. I'd never felt so intimately ensnared, his body pressing until my back hit the booth, our surroundings dissolving into sweet nothingness. With every kiss, every sweep of his tongue, I felt the dance of our conflict, the erotic tug-of-war transforming into visceral need. He cradled my face, his warmth against my chill igniting a conflagration beneath every surface-level barrier I'd erected. "Zuri," he whispered, guilt clinging to his voice, a fever that broke and left nothing but raw desire behind. "Just kiss me." The taste of urgency punctuated our breath as we lost ourselves in frenzied warmth, the space around us increasingly forgotten. No more walls, just ethereal connection drawing me into the magnetic depths of his soul. "Ah," icy lips melting under pressure, he teased between breaths, visibly riling as I edged my foot against his leg, pressing forward in playful response. "Detailed observation, Mr. Carter," I whispered back. A cascade of laughter erupted between us. It felt as if the world outside paused, no longer the icy terrain, shadows of doubts, pressures feeling foreign, and instead merging us into a heated embrace. "Feisty," he mused playfully, braving our past conflicts to newfound depth, teasing me while igniting passion anew. "Perhaps I am," I countered, our energy building until the very air around us pulsed with intention. "Maybe," he murmured softly, "just maybe we fit together." "Who knew?" I laughed breathily between kisses, lost in the whirlwind sensations we evoked. Two fierce spirits clashing could lead here. A sense of deep-rooted trust thrummed wildly beneath the surface, deep and dark. I could breathe in his electric currents and feel our past pain unravel under the alluring warmth of burgeoning possibilities. In that moment, we were no longer just two competitors on thin ice, but powerful forces entwined, soaring, and deep down I felt an unwavering belief that amidst chaos, perhaps it would be enough. The echoes of our tumultuous dance settled gently and embossed the evening, and when we finally broke free, we found ourselves facing flawed truths together, our battle winning just beneath the bed of passion, a brief interlude of happiness stitching together remaining threads. The stakes may have climbed higher, but for the two of us, the truth lanced forth. Love, raw and uncharted, could conquer any tempest hidden beneath the icy Antarctic. "So," I spoke, a playfulness settling over my expression that masked the passionate upheaval drumming within me. "What's our next step?" Elias cocked his head, eyes dancing with fervor and tenacity, a piercing exploration, inviting me to step forward into the unknown. Igniting the fire that bound us together and hinted at the adventures ahead. "Geared up for more?" always. I grinned, inching closer and daring to unwrap the depths of our complex connection as we braved the uncertainties. And with a simple flicker in his expression, I knew our saga was far from over. Together, we were generating electric pathways to fight against the tides threatening to subdue us. The heat from the dance took us further than before, weaving a profound confidence amidst the chilly chaos lurking around, assuring us love would conquer, even here. Chapter 42, Trust Issues. I stood in the heart of the ship's galley, stirring a heady pot of bouillabaisse, the steam swirling around me like anxious whispers. The aroma of saffron and thyme hung thick in the air, mixing with the quiet clang of pots and pans around me. Outside, the brutal Antarctic winds howled, battering the ice-locked hull. Each gust of wind felt like the ice itself was trying to shatter, just as my heart threatened to do at the thought of Elias's hidden truths. "Is this how you plan on luring me into a false sense of security?" I asked, my voice light but tinged with edge, as Marisol, my playful sous chef, sidled up beside me, her face brightened with amusement. "False sense or not, that broth could bring peace to the Arctic Circle," she teased, her eyes twinkling. "But you seem more sour than the lemons over there." She nudged her head toward a bowl of bright yellow fruit sitting atop the counter. "Maybe I just can't get the taste of betrayal out of my mouth," I shot back, trying to keep my tone light, but the weight of my words soaked into the warm air. Her smile faded, replaced by a knowing frown. "You having trouble with Elias? You need to keep him on his toes. He's too commanding, you know." "Maybe," I replied. My gaze drifted to the metallic door that led to the rest of the ship, the endless hallways and luxurious cabins that felt more like a gilded cage with every passing day. "But the question is, can I ever trust him?" "Trust is earned," Marisol considered, lightly tapping her spoon against the counter. "But sometimes you have to leap before you look, Zuri." Just as I opened my mouth to reply, the door swung open. Elias strode in, a storm in his eyes, and an effortless grace in his step that sliced through the tension instantly. The light caught the sharp lines of his face, casting shadows that danced like the chaos within me. "What's this I hear about trust?" he asked, a dry smile creeping onto his lips, but it was edged with something darker, something that made my chest clench. "Just food for thought," I replied, trying to deflect the conversation. But the moments stretched between us, taut with unspoken words, wrapping around us like the frigid air outside. "Speaking of food," Elias said, stepping closer, the heat radiating from his body undeniable. "You should know that I won't have to build anything between us. We were already forged in fire, Zuri." My insides twisted at the implication, memories of his hidden role in my life rushing forward. "Isn't that the problem?" I almost spat the words, the bitterness pouring out before I could swallow it back. "What if your fire is just smoke and mirrors?" His brow furrowed, but he didn't back down. "You think I haven't struggled with this?" His voice dropped an octave, vibrating with intensity. "You think I haven't known this would be the outcome? You're furious, and you should be, but you cannot just assume the worst of me." "Then show me," I said, furious with the pleading tone that crept into my voice. "If you want me to trust you, then stop hiding, stop dancing around everything." Elias moved closer, and an electric surge flew between us. "You want me to bare my soul? Show you everything? You need to trust me first, Zuri." I could feel the heat radiating off him, a beacon amidst the chilling atmosphere that surrounded us. Marisol discreetly stepped away, sensing how thin the air had become, leaving us in our own turbulent world. I met Elias's gaze, the fire in his chocolate-brown eyes intensifying in response to my rising anger. "What do you want me to trust in when you've built this wall?" I shot back, arms crossed tightly across my chest. "You've done so much for me without revealing yourself. How can I believe that anything you feel isn't just some act of charity?" He stepped back slightly, a flicker of wounded pride passing across his features, quickly replaced by his usual stoic demeanor. "You think I'm here because I pity you? I think I don't know who you are. My voice echoed against the stainless steel surfaces, and then the room descended into silence, save for the low simmering of the bouillabaisse. I took a breath, struggling to rein in my emotions. You've played the protector, the benefactor. What part is real? Elias's posture shifted, uncovering a vulnerability that cracked the icy determination in his eyes. Zuri, he said, searching my gaze as if each word was a weight he had to lift. I wanted to rebuild what you had lost, and I didn't just help you back to life. I wanted to be a part of it. The air felt electric, charged with the gravity of his admission. You? A part of my life? I practically scoffed, incredulous. You've kept yourself in the shadows, staying anonymous while I fought my demons. You don't get to just waltz in now and claim a place. Before I could finish my sentence, he closed the distance between us again, his grip firm yet gentle as his hand clasped around my wrist. And yet here I am, Zuri. His breath hung thick between us, and I'm not going anywhere. Do you know how hard it's been to watch you from the sidelines? I needed to respect your space, your independence. But the moment you stepped onto this ship, something shifted. Maybe that something is too complicated for us, I replied, my heart pounding in my chest, the warmth radiating from him, igniting something within me. No, his voice was fierce, determined. It's perfect and complicated in ways you can't see yet. I need you to trust me, Zuri. A moment hung between us, and the walls of the galley felt narrower as the heated air enveloped us. My heart raced, the pulse quickening in rhythm with his words, but self-doubt chased shadows behind my eyes. I need to know that I matter, Elias, not just as a project, but as me. You matter to me. You always have, he murmured, his voice husky and low. I felt his gaze melt away the barriers between us, leaving only a raw, pulsating truth in its wake. Then open up, I whispered, my body instinctively leaning closer to his. Show me who you are beneath the surface. Elias's eyes darkened, and he stepped even closer, as if unwilling to let the moment fade. You want me to lay it all bare? Then first you need to stop hiding behind your walls. I opened my mouth, ready to challenge him when he took a sharp breath and pressed his lips against mine. Soft at first, filled with hesitance, but laced with a need that coursed between us like lightning. The kiss was a promise, a thunderclap, amid the swirling tempest of our arguments, igniting an avalanche of emotions, restrained until this very moment. Enough talking, Zuri, he breathed against me, his voice cracking like a whispered command. Let me show you. Beneath the glimmering lights of the galley, our kiss heated, erupting into a wild dance of passion that felt dangerously electric, like a breath of warmth against the chill of the ice surrounding us. My hands roamed over his back, feeling the tension in his muscles shift and yield as I pressed myself against him. The world outside fell silent, leaving only the rhythm of our breaths mingling with the simmering bouillabaisse. A symphony of warmth over the frozen expanse outside. Elias, I gasped, pulling in a breath as his lips traveled down my neck, igniting a fire that fought against both the cold and the doubts clouding my mind. I'll show you how real it can be, he offered, his voice thick with desire and urgency. But you have to let go, Zuri. Trust will come, but only if you embrace this first. Then let's break it down together. I pulled him closer, my heart racing against the din of uncertainty that had ruled me until now. The air thickened with promise as he shifted to capture my lips again, igniting a much deeper heat than the savory broth simmering quietly behind us. The sounds of the galley faded. It was just Elias and me, two souls entwined amidst the chaos of the world, fighting through our trust issues, our passions, intertwined like the icy tendrils outside and the warmth of the fire that flared within. Together, I murmured against his warmth, feeling his heartbeat strong beneath my fingertips as I gave myself over to the moment, my doubts surrendering to the intoxicating depths of our connection. Together, he echoed back, and in that shared certainty, a promise brewed, one that felt both terrifying and exhilarant, right there amidst bouillabaisse and the shadow of the expansive Antarctic wilderness. Chapter 44, closing in. The ship creaked beneath my feet as I leaned against the frosted glass of the observation deck. Outside, the swirling snow melted into a fuzzy blur, the white tempest mimicking the chaos inside me. How ironic it felt to be surrounded by vast frozen beauty while trapped in a storm of our own making. The temperature had plummeted, the solid surface of ice crushing down on us as surely as the unspoken words weighed on my heart. Elias stood a pace away, his silhouette illuminated by the flickering light from the overhead chandelier. The glimmering reflections danced on the smooth mahogany paneling, and yet all I could see was the tension radiating from his broad shoulders. We were dangerously close to breaking, and I suddenly sensed how our desires intertwined with the icy fortress surrounding us. "We need a plan," I said, finally breaking the silence between us. My voice, although steady, was threaded with urgency. Elias turned, his dark eyes piercing through the haze of my worry. The way he studied me was almost unsettling, as if he could see all the mechanisms I was attempting to keep at bay. "A plan, or you just think we can throw this decision into the abyss and hope it decides the outcome for us?" I swallowed hard, feeling every ounce of frustration return like a slap. "The marauders are closing in. We need to make a move before they do." I stepped forward, closing the distance. "Do you understand that? Our lives depend on this. Trust me to take care of you." His voice dripped with confidence, but that only added to my irritation. "You know I can take care of myself," I snapped back, not caring if the fight was futile. The pounding in my chest could have been the ship's heartbeat or my own. It was hard to tell amidst the thundering snowfall outside. His brow furrowed. "This isn't just about you anymore, Zuri. I won't let you throw yourself into danger." I felt the heat of anger rise within me, a blaze igniting stubbornness I didn't realize I possessed. "You don't get to decide my worth, Elias. Your overprotectiveness doesn't make me smaller. It makes you arrogant." "Arrogant?" His voice was low, layered with disbelief. "I think I've proven otherwise. You have no idea what I've done to make sure you are safe." He stepped closer, the space between us charged with heated air, giving off sparks I could both feel and taste. "I've watched you overcome darkness." His words clawed at the tightly held thread of my control. "And I've done it without you, without any of your shadowy interventions," I hissed, stepping back, only to feel the chill of the glass against my body. At that moment, the laughter of my friends drifting from the salon rang through the tense atmosphere, creating an odd juxtaposition to our clash. They didn't know what was looming over us, the shadows creeping closer with every pause in our argument. I could hear Brianna's playful teasing tone about our unexpected chemistry, but I had no time for triviality. "Zuri," Brianna shouted, her voice booming with laughter, "are you two seriously going to make up here? Because as far as I can tell, someone's about to blow a fuse." I caught Elias' eye and felt a strange compulsion to laugh despite my anger. That was the beauty of our circle. They had a knack for injecting levity into the darkest of situations. But laughter gave way to tensions quickly, and I could feel the silent battles simmering beneath the surface. "What if we use them?" I exchanged a glance with Elias, something smoldering between us like ice meeting fire. We could turn their arrogance against them, catch them off guard. He tilted his head, contemplating, and just like that the weight of friction began to mutate into collaborative resolve. "That could work. We can set up traps. But Zuri, if we do this, I want you safe, no risking yourself unnecessarily." I stepped forward again, my heart racing, the debate fading, replaced by an urgency to reach out and pull him into my orbit that felt magnetically impossible to resist. "You think I'll just stand back and let you handle everything? You know that's not how I operate. Your protection shouldn't stifle me." His expression softened, though the tension danced. "It's not about stifling, it's about loyalty. We shouldn't throw ourselves into danger for the sake of bravado." "Together, Elias. Isn't that the point?" I exclaimed, stepping ever closer, the burn of his presence melding with the chill of the winter storm outside. He closed his eyes for a moment, but then opened them, the distance collapsing between us. "Okay, together. But, I interrupted, frustration rising again. He reached out, brushing a finger along my arm, sending an undeniable spark through my skin. But I want you fully on board. I want all of you in this, not the half measures we've been navigating with these emotional battles. Just then, amid the stillness created by our charged conversation, the ship jolted, reverberating through the icy expanse. The rushed footsteps of our friends echoed down the corridor, breaking the charged air. Elias and I were drawn back from the abyss by the noise. The storm wasn't just outside, it was fully upon us, threatening to drown us in its chaos. I could already feel the urgency shoving its way back into our dynamic. I knew he'd done everything to shelter me, but a deeper part of me needed to explore what we could become if we dared to dive into each other, into the madness and the cold. I pushed the fleeting urge to retreat and wrapped my arms around him, drawing him closer. We can do this, Elias, together. His hesitant smile ignited something deep inside, warming the cracks that had threatened to freeze us both. Together. The way he said it was a promise, intertwined with both vulnerability and determination. Let's go rally the troops then, I said, lightness creeping back in. Before we stepped into the salon, I caught a glimpse of what we might have. Strength and passion bred from conflict. But at that moment, I felt an undercurrent of something deeper. An unyielding bond that could withstand any storm, no matter how ferocious. Inside the salon, laughter kicked up the cold atmosphere like a twirling whirlwind, and I could feel that energy pulling me. Whoa, are you two finally done arguing? Brianna teased as I entered. We shared our warm camaraderie like a comforting blanket against the chill creeping through our bones. But I felt something heavier than mere friendship settle in. A stark awareness that love, like this freezing landscape, was beautifully treacherous. As the chatter escalated and plans began to form for our daring strategy, I exchanged one last look with Elias. The tempest outside mirrored the wild, electrifying connections sparking between us. We'd stormed the barricades of ice, of jealousy and of fear together. No plan was foolproof, but the weight of love would always drive us into the chaos to face whatever came next. Just before I turned back, he caught my eye, and the intensity of his smile evoked a promise in my chest. You ready to face the world, Zuri? He asked, a hint of playful bravado lacing his words. I grinned back, feeling the heat of my pulse meet the coolness of the air surrounding us. Let's do this, I replied. Every wild part of me screamed to embrace the unfolding storm. We would merge with it and rise stronger, unstoppable like the tides against a shifting shore. Chapter 45. A Fragile Alliance. The air was thick with the scent of salt and ice. I stepped onto the observation deck of the Endurance, the wind biting at my cheeks while snowflakes spiraled like tiny dancers in the muted light of the Arctic afternoon. A horizon of white stretched endlessly, merging with a steely sky, nearly swallowing the ship whole. I felt as if I were perched on the edge of an abyss, the promise of adventure intertwined with a chilling dread that settled deep in my bones. Decisions are as vital as the survival kits we carry, came Elias's deep voice, pulling my focus from the horizon. He threaded his fingers through his hair, letting the wind tousle it, a wild crown against the stark backdrop. Isn't that right, Zuri? I turned, every nerve ending alive, as my heart barely missed a beat. You're not here to philosophize, Elias, I replied, leaning against the rail, letting the cold metal anchor me. We're outnumbered, and if the crew doesn't respect my authority soon... I hesitated. We'll be dead in the water. Elias stepped closer, his presence as forbidding as the encroaching storm. Let them talk. You know how to deal with this, and how to handle me. I shot him a sidelong glance. Don't flatter yourself. I'm vaguely aware of your character. And herein lay the rub. Elias, my protector cloaked in mystery, was the very embodiment of the magnetism and danger that left me floundering, always oscillating between trust and instinct. Flattery? He raised an eyebrow, amusement flickering in his dark eyes. Zuri, I simply observe. Besides, I believe I'm worth a little admiration. There it was again, the sharpness beneath the charm, a tempest waiting to unfold. My fingers curled around the railing. Just because you funded my escape from being a glorified artisan doesn't mean you can delude yourself into thinking. Thinking what? That I see you as anything less than formidable? The underlying earnestness in his tone held me captive, triggering a rush of heat beneath my skin that contrasted harshly with the climate surrounding us. There was an electric connection, a test of wills, and I was living on borrowed time. Before I could respond, the raucous laughter of the crew interrupted us, a band of men and women whose skepticism draped over my leadership like a fog. Donnie, the burly first mate, stood at the center, splayed hands gesturing wildly about how a city girl had gotten us into this tundra mess. I swallowed hard, a surge of determination bubbling beneath my surface. "Let's put this to the test," I said, gazing out at the inclement weather battering the windows of the observation deck. "I'll meet them in the lounge in 5 minutes. Get the crew to settle down. I'm tired of their second-guessing." "Not everything can be solved in group therapy, darling." His teasing smile only served to stoke the heat in me, sending a wave of longing that I tried desperately to push down. "Give me 5 minutes, Elias. Just 5. He pinned me with a look that stirred something dangerously primal within, but all he did was offer a slight nod. As I turned, I could feel the warmth of his gaze still lingering on me, an unspoken farewell, or perhaps a promise. The lounge was a cacophony of boisterous yet guarded laughter, a surgical dissection of my character and competence, each snicker layered with salted wounds. Naomi, the ship's logistics officer, leaned against the bar, arms crossed, the most skeptical of them all, while a couple of deckhands exchanged glances that danced between curiosity and derision. "Let's start with why we're here," I announced, striding to the center. The energy shifted, gears grating slowly but inevitably. "We're in unfamiliar waters, literally and figuratively. I need your cooperation, and I won't pretend I'm some wilderness expert. But I'm not going to stand idle while we debate who should take command of this mess." Donnie's deep belly laugh punctuated the moment, drawing attention. "You think we're questioning your competence just because you got fancy degrees? This ice isn't fine jewelry territory, lady." "Real funny," I said, my voice steady, even as my insides writhed. "I'm not pretending only to know spreadsheets and grand designs. I'm here to ensure we all make it out alive." "What makes you so special?" Naomi challenged, her gaze laced with an impressive blend of skepticism and admiration that made me realize she was a rival rather than a mere foe. I met her eyes directly. "Because I refuse to die out here. My ambition brought me to this moment. All of your skepticism means nothing if we're frozen in time." An awkward silence settled, the leadership critique relinquished for a heartbeat. I felt Elias's watchful presence behind me, imbuing me with a rare surge of confidence. Yet the resolve teetered on a fragile edge that could splinter before the next wave of doubt. "Why should we follow you?" A younger crewman, Ethan, finally broke the silence. "Just because you're eye candy and—" "Enough," Elias barked, stepping into the open space, the air around him charged. "Zuri is leading this mission for a reason, and all you crew members need to respect that." While his commanding tone whipped the atmosphere into submission, my stomach nodded at the realization of the complexities woven into our alliance. Was I merely a figurehead while Elias moved the pieces around me like a mysterious puppeteer? "Fine, let's assume we go with your plan. What's next?" Naomi's voice cut back through the tension like a blade. As discussions evolved, negotiations transformed, with each member slowly contributing their insights. What started initially as a duel of wills grew into a crucial alliance of sorts, a fragile understanding surrounding our need for collaboration in the unforgiving wilderness. After the discussions spiraled to a temporary truce, laughter began to resonate amidst snide remarks and tentative support. "Maybe you're just here to keep Donnie in check," Ethan mused, his tone sweet, and I couldn't help but smirk. "After all, someone's got to save us from his brilliant ideas about scotch on ice." "Best idea of the day," Donnie chimed in, raising an imaginary glass, leading to raucous laughter, the tension ebbing slightly. Despite the chaos, It felt oddly exhilarating to carve out a space for myself in a group that resisted my authority simply for being me. Despite Elias watching from the periphery, I felt a shift begin to blossom. A tentative thread tethering me to this chaotic family aboard the Endurance. Suddenly, the shouting stopped, and I turned to see Elias moving deliberately through the crowd, a self-satisfied smirk illuminating his features. "For the record," he spoke loudly, "Zuri's not the only one capable of misjudging ice." He lifted a glass, ice clinking against the sturdy crystal, and flashed a wink at me. "If we survive this journey, I'll be the first to toast to the city girl who didn't freeze under pressure." Cheers erupted. The corruption of tension, like steam escaping a kettle, freed me into delight. The kind that could induce a quiet rebellion against the weight of our circumstances. Later, as I replanted myself in my cabin, I glanced over the charts and reports littered across the desk. The mountain of responsibilities simmering beneath my surface. Yet I couldn't shake the reverberation of Elias's gaze preceding me. I leaned back, allowing the weariness of the day to seep into my muscles, when a knock interrupted the heavy silence. "Zuri," Elias's voice slipped through the door smooth as velvet. "Come in." I barely suppressed the tremor in my voice as I prepared myself for his presence. The door opened slowly, and he stepped into my sanctuary, a sanctuary filled with the sharp chill of the icy expanse outside, mixed with heated anticipation. "What's the matter, feeling cold?" He arched an eyebrow and sauntered closer, a predatory grace in his every gesture. "Just trying to figure my way through the day," I said, my voice lower than I intended, swirling desire creeping close to the surface. He stepped forward, bridging the distance, and the warmth radiating off him enveloped me like a breath of spring, cutting through icy winds. "You did well, they'll come around." The sincerity in his tone ignited a flicker of something deeper than ambition. "I'm not sure I can trust them." My resolve was clouded, how easily the line crumbled with the fervor of his presence. "You can trust yourself. You've survived every calamity life threw your way. If they don't see that strength, they're blind." His intent darkened, his eyes blazing with a simmering intensity. "As for us, Zuri, you know our commitment lies beyond alliances and strategies." Every word saturated the moment with heat, pooling in the air between us. "What do you mean? You think I'm willing to let my heart sway with the magnetic pull of—" But before I could falter further, he swept me into his arms, capturing my thoughts as his lips crashed against mine, igniting a wildfire across every inch of my skin. My body responded against my ingrained hesitations, igniting back into a vivid reality as his hands traced the arch of my back, igniting my spine. His touch sent electric shocks, jolting me out of the confines of worry. I melded against him, surrendering to the sensation of everything around us fading, our breaths intertwining in a rhythm that blazed brighter than the polar sun. "Zuri," his voice was a low whisper against my lips, vibrating with urgency, carrying the weight of all our unspoken truths. "You have all of me. Do you understand?" "Yes," I replied, breathless as I leaned into him, spiraling deeper into the intensity of his presence, a world of passion and challenge. The storm rumbled outside, but it was no match for the tempest unfurling between us. We surrendered to the inevitable, knowing that love demands its trials against the wilderness of ambition and dreams. In that embrace, with the stakes higher than ever, I learned the fragility of our dreams lay not only in the chaos around us, but the fervent fire we carried, fierce enough to overcome anything. Chapter 46. Heartbeats and echoes. The steel walls of the Aurora hummed like an oracle in the dark, vibrating with whispers of danger and pressurized shivers in the endless ice outside. I sat at the work table, eyes glazed over my sketches, each line a plea, each design an echo of dreams far too urgent to ignore. Yet the shadows were thickening, not just in the frigid landscape beyond our ship, but in my heart. Elias surfaced from the back cabin, his silhouette bold against the soft warmth of the stranded lights. "What are you working on?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed. I kept my lips pressed tightly together, hiding the hurricane of thoughts swirling inside. Just, you know, trying to create something that doesn't scream frozen tundra, I replied, attempting humor, but it felt more like an ice shard lodged in my chest. Elias stepped toward me, his gaze flickering between the sketches and my face, dissecting the turmoil he could sense lurking just under the surface. "You're pushing yourself too hard, Zuri." His voice was low, warm against the chill that draped our surroundings. "Pushing myself is how I keep moving forward. Do you think I want to sit around and—" I stopped, straining against the instinct to shut him out. The truth was that his presence both grounded and disoriented me. It was hard to ignore the way my heart beat just a little quicker around him, how he had come to mean something deeper. "Don't." Elias's brow furrowed, a blend of protectiveness and something I couldn't quite define hammering through. "You avoid the heaviness by burying yourself in work. But you can't keep running." "Am I running?" I shot back defensively. "I'm building a life, Elias, a foundation. You wouldn't understand." "Try me," he replied, a faint smile curling on his lips. "I've built more than just a ship out of ice." The tension between us eased, if only slightly, a momentary truce woven through laughter and familiarity. But beneath the laughs lay something prickly, sharp, like the shards of ice wedged in the crevasses. I sensed it in the way he shifted closer. "Okay," I relented, meeting his eyes head-on. They were pools of magnetism, black and glinting like obsidian. "But it's not pretty." "Not much about this place is pretty, Zuri. I can handle it." He smirked, the kind of teasing that softened the corners of his intensity. "Besides, I might need something to distract me from the fact that we've been locked in this floating iceberg for too long." "Locked on this iceberg with you is hardly a punishment." I leaned back, trying to sound playful, but my pulse quickened, the air between us crackling with possible electricity. I felt vulnerable despite the comedy that danced on our lips. Elias's amusement faded, leaving behind an unflinching gaze that speared through the armor I had forged around my heart. "Vulnerability is not a weakness, Zuri." I wanted to protest, but found that my voice had vanished. He had seen through me. "Would you ever let your guard down?" I asked softly. He chuckled, then suddenly straightened, shadowed intensity surfacing in his posture. "Letting my guard down is risky. You don't know what's at stake." The air thickened, the laughter turning bitter. "What's at stake for us?" I countered, my hands trembling against the table. "What exactly is at stake for you, Elias?" "I'm here," he said, stepping closer, his tone no longer light. "I'm willing to risk everything for you, but you need to meet me halfway." "Halfway?" It slipped out like a challenge, gathering the momentum of our budding argument. "You think this is about you being some white knight riding in to save me? Did you even ask for my consent the last time you barged into my life and my heart?" His expression hardened, darkening the lingering warmth between us. "It's not that simple, and you know it. You don't have all the facts." "Then enlighten me." My cheeks flushed with frustration as I clenched my hands, nails biting into my palms. "You want me to trust you, and you stand there guarding secrets like a fortress." The space between us shimmered with tension, a universe built of words never spoken. Shadows loomed around us, each one reinforcing the silence that lingered like ice, threatening to crack. He stepped back, his eyes like distant storms, filled with wild energy. "I never wanted to hurt you, Zuri. This is a lot to navigate," he replied with a raw honesty that cut through my anger. "But this connection, whatever it is, I'm in it, as complicated as it gets." "A connection?" I echoed, heart thumping in rebellion. "What's the connection if you won't let me in?" "Having it all doesn't mean being comfortable." His eyes bore into mine, fiery determination sparkling just below the surface. "Sometimes it means facing the consequences together." "Then what am I? What are we doing?" I closed the distance between us, words pouring out. "What are you so afraid of, Elias? The past? Secrets? Me?" "Maybe I'm afraid of falling," he admitted, lowering his guard for a moment, "of losing everything I've built." With that admission, Something shifted in the layers of ice that surrounded us. The tenderness broke through the ice, and though it was fleeting, I swore I could feel the heat of our frustrations melting away. "And if it's worth the risk?" I asked, my heart racing as I dared to close the gap further. "Then we jump together," he breathed, eyes flickering with the shadows of the situations pressing down on us. Before I could respond, he pulled me into an embrace that felt like the end of an argument and the beginning of something incandescent. The warmth between us blazed like a wildfire, igniting the breath in my lungs. Just like that, every ounce of tension dissipated, and the air felt lighter. "You don't have to be perfect, Zuri," he murmured into my hair. "All I need is your truth." There was no more storm in his voice, only a low, steady hum of honesty that echoed through me. What flowed from me next was a confession, heavy yet freeing. "I'm scared, Elias, scared of failing, scared of wanting something so fiercely and not knowing how to keep it." His grip tightened around me as 1,000 unsaid words spilled into the moment, knitting us closer. "You're not alone. Together we slice through obstacles. Together we can confront whatever is out there." He leaned back, brushing his thumb over my cheek. "Just give me a chance." "I want to," I whispered, longing to lose myself in the temptation of us. "I want to so badly, Elias." Before I could finish, his mouth found mine, unrelenting and fervent, a tempest of desire and longing. My body responded instantly, melting against the heat of his ardor as he molded me into his arms. It was a kiss steeped in urgency, using every breath and every heartbeat to fill the cavernous void left by our fears and uncertainties. "Zuri," he murmured against my lips, wrapping his hands around my waist, drawing me closer until I felt the steady rhythm of his heart. "I'm going to show you how beautiful it is to embrace everything we are, scars and all." As he deepened the kiss, I couldn't think of the ice pressing in from all sides. I was lost in the immense warmth of him. The taste of his mouth was intoxicating, each brush igniting sparks that coursed through me, setting my veins ablaze. My body ached for more, each lingering caress whispering promises of shelter and fervency. We stumbled backwards until the edge of the drafting table caught my hip, and a flurry of sketches and tools scattered to the floor. But neither of us cared. We finally collided into a storm, crashing waves of passion around us. Our breaths mingled in a tidal rhythm, the pressure between us crescendoing like the ship's shuddering moans outside. "I've been wanting this," I gasped, pulling back just enough to look into his eyes, ablaze with desire. "Every moment," he admitted fervently, coaxing me back into his embrace, our bodies curving together seamlessly. "I've wanted you in ways I didn't think I could want someone." "Then let's fight for it," I urged, guiding him into a dance of urgency and bliss as I pulled him closer, heart racing. The act of letting go threatened to pull us both apart, but instead we leaped, surrendering to the pull of our undeniable connection. As we tumbled into the embrace of heated passion, the chaos around us faded into distant echoes. In this moment of suspended existence, I dared to dream, not of consequences or fear, but of everything we could build together. The beauty forged through battles, the laughter in the quiet moments, and the warmth of hearts entangled so gracefully. And as the waves rolled over us, I began to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, this wasn't merely a fleeting tempest of emotions. Maybe, against the cold and relentless backdrop of the world outside, we could discover the warmth of our own heartbeats, pulsating together in a rhythm both fierce and tender. "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered between kisses, my heart finally bursting free from the ice. "Good," he replied, finding that space between pleasure and pain, drawing me closer until he was my entire universe. "Neither am I." And so, lost in the storm, we surrendered to the echoing depths of what we had unleashed. Chapter 47, Dancing on Razor's Edge. Why on earth would you choose the lilac over the sapphire? Elias's voice tangled through the clattering of the shipping crates, a mix of mirth and challenge, as he leaned over the display table, his dark, penetrating eyes sparking with mischief. I paused, glancing up at him, the light from the hanging bulbs casting a warm glow that softened his sharp features. Because the lilac has depth, Elias. It tells a story, one I'm not done telling, I replied, my tone a careful tease. Elias let out a low, throaty laugh that sent a thrill skittering down my spine. Sure, if you want your designs to look like they came from a grandmother's attic. I rolled my eyes, the banter as familiar as the scent of sandalwood wafting from the small factory on the lower deck. And what do your designs look like then? Boardroom bland? He stepped back, feigning shock, a playful hand on his chest. How dare you? My pieces earned me a spot at the gala last week. You know, the one that actually drew in investors, unlike your weeknight shows at the local gallery. Careful, I warned, my voice dropping as I stepped toward him, my heart thumping erratically in my chest. Or I might just take you up on that challenge. A moment suspended in time passed between us before the distant clamor of our friends, Mira, Jaden, and their hotly debated menu for the evening's gathering, pushed through. Mira, ever the provocateur, rolled into the room, hair in wild curls that framed her glowing face. Honestly, Zuri, you should just admit Elias is right for once. And yes, I heard all of that, even over Jaden's exaggerated complaints about the crab cakes. Crab cakes? Elias exclaimed, his voice theatrical. Please. All that grease is going to throw off the whole aesthetic we've worked so hard to establish on this ship. First of all, you know I'm not responsible for your cooking disasters, Mr. Carter. Jaden chimed in, smirking with his arms crossed. And second, Zuri is never going to admit to being wrong, ever. Exactly, I shot back, my laughter mingling with Jaden's, relief cascading over my stress. Conflict with Elias could tip from playful to heated in seconds, and despite the lightness of our banter, a crackling tension still clung to us, thick, tantalizing, and articulate in all the ways we were not. Elias's gaze found mine again, brightness flickering in the depths of his eyes against the backdrop of chatter and chaos. You really think you can pull off the lilac? My breath caught, an effortless heartbeat drumming against my ribs, a reminder of what lay beneath the surface of our banter. I think it will do more than pull off a look, Elias. It'll command presence. He crossed over to me, leaning in just close enough that our shoulders brushed, the warmth radiating from him, a subtle flame igniting an unexpected longing in me. Then show me, Miss Lawson. Cast your spell while I pretend to keep my mind on practical decisions. That last word slipped out with a suggestive lilt. I could feel the challenge enveloping us, and an involuntary shiver traced my spine. I'll be sure to take my time, I said softly, our secret world spinning with just that phrase, until the laughter around us subsided, and silence began to drown out our friends' chatter. Mira, oblivious or perhaps leaning into our moment, said loudly, "Speaking of commanding presence, is there any chance I can convince you two to help me figure out what to wear to the bar tonight?" Jaden grinned, snapping his fingers. "Nope, we're busy with this." He gestured vaguely between Elias and me, a delicious grin spreading across his face. "Oh, please, I want to see how you both pull that off. Zuri in lilac and Elias in something equally gaudy," Mira said, clearly unbothered by our discomfort. "Gaudy?" I echoed, raising my eyebrows at Jaden's mock fear. "Excuse me while I drown in my own style. Would that be too much to bear?" Elias quipped. My heart raced as his smirk finally broke free. "Why is everyone getting distracted by a lilac dress?" Mira demanded, exasperated as she flopped into a chair. "Focus, people. We've got a party in the bar tonight, and I intend to make it unforgettable." Unforgettable isn't the word I'm thinking of. More scandalous. Jaden raised an eyebrow mischievously at Elias, his tone layered with undertones of challenge. Elias straightened, the seriousness settling on his face, making my heart thump with anticipation. Scandalous? We should focus on getting through dinner without anyone ending up in a meltdown. No thanks to your genius crab cakes. His eyes darted toward me, humor flashing in their depths. Meltdown indeed. I let a chuckle escape as I watched the friendly exchange unravel. Soon enough, Jaden was flipping through the options on his high-end phone, making everyone burst into laughter over potential drink combinations, while Mira retold tales of our last gathering, embellished beyond recognition. Yet despite the lightness surrounding us, friends bent over shared excitement, I felt the weight of unsaid things clawing at my insides. Come on, Zuri, what's the deal with you and Elias? Jaden's challenge, even playfully given, smacked me across the face. With two people like you, honestly, I think we all need a map to navigate the tension. Oh, hush, I threw back at him, but Elias had stepped closer, lowering his voice, punctuating the air with a deliberate tease. Careful, Zuri, or I might just have to make one of those maps. A breath hitched between us. Tension radiated, heavy and undeniable. You mean a treasure map? Because it seems all too easy to get lost in this conversation. His lips twitched, a glimmer of challenge igniting between us. It might be worth it to get utterly lost, don't you think? Hey, you two are killing me here, Mira interjected. A little help with this dress? You seem awfully busy getting lost in your own territory. As my friends talked, my breath steadied, though my heart felt like it was conducting its own symphony. I floated back into the lively banter, letting its undertow carry me, even as Elias stood beside me, steadfast and quiet. Once dinner convened and the promise of drinks lingered, the atmosphere shifted momentarily. It began to talk back. Voices wove in and out as heat wrapped around us. We were each present, yet oddly isolated, together and apart. The tension felt magnetic, a taut string ready to snap. At some point, when laughter echoed from the bar area, I noticed Elias's gaze wandering beyond the window, across the frozen landscape. The ship's wheels grumbled against the thick ice, as if rebelling against the chill. And yet the heat radiating between us defied the Antarctic cold. Dance, he suggested, his voice low enough for only me to hear. Dance? I echoed, surprised, a single breath against the chill in the air. No instruments, just us. And even as laughter erupted from the room, a deafening silence enclosed the space around us, grounding the swirling world outside. The soft thump of distant music synced with my heartbeat as Elias pulled me toward an empty corner, away from the competing chaos. My pulse quickened. His warmth enveloped me as my fingers laced through the rhythm of his, every step unintentional, heart in throat thrilling. Are you sure we should be doing this? I whispered, as proximity ignited feisty adrenaline between us. Why not? He said, his voice steady as he pulled me nearer, my breath almost faltering. I could see the spark in his eyes, daring me to push the edges of our reality. And before I knew it, my feet had settled. I danced on that proverbial razor's edge, unable to ignore the thrilling abyss between us. A fine, invisible line, poised to either collapse inward or break into ecstatic freedom. The noise around us faded, shadows melting into the rhythm of just Elias and me. A half smile played on his lips, and I tightened my grip on him, savoring the tautness, a gentle tug in the darkness. Whatever happens, Zuri, he murmured, you need to trust me. Trust. The words swallowed my breath. Could I? After everything, could I grant him that power over me? My heart surged, filled with the intoxicating swirl of consequence and longing. And then, before reason could tether me back, he closed the space between us, dropping his forehead to mine. I felt the world collapse into silence as our eyes locked, the pulse of desire thrumming between us. Kiss me, I dared, all energy concentrated in that porous moment. And he did. A spark turned into a wildfire, igniting the edges of our tempers, mouths crashing together with all the accumulated tension from the past weeks. The kiss roared, ablaze, consuming my thoughts, filling me with a dizzying rush that flooded my system, twisting long-buried feelings to the surface. I lost track of everything, The ship, the party, the reality outside. My fingers tangled in his hair, tasting the sweetness of the stolen moment. The world bending to accommodate us. Our laughter from moments before evaporated, replaced now with something primal, unyielding in its urgency. But as we broke apart, breathless and trembling, the shouts from Jaden and Mira beckoned at the edge of our euphoria, ringing through the air filled with our shared heat, an imminent chaos I hadn't realized would come crashing back. Elias's eyes still flickered with embers, a daring promise held within them. "We'll finish this later, Zuri." As I reassessed the room, a smile graced my lips, prickling with exhilaration. I had stepped beyond the safety of ambition, and amid the gathering of friends and laughter echoing around us, I knew this would only be the beginning. A crispness laced with adrenaline clung to everything, and I could taste the salt from my own sweat as I leaned against the polished mahogany railing of the observation deck. The frosted glass walls reflected my unease. The shadows of my past played tricks on me, catching me off guard in their silent dance. The aurora was a masterpiece of luxury, yet tonight it felt like a gilded cage. I had uncovered some vital information regarding the marauders who threatened everything I had worked for: my dreams, my ambitions, and most maddeningly, my heart. I closed my eyes for a moment, recalling the message I intercepted, a code-laden email outlining their devious plans to sink this ship. A shiver rippled through me, but I savored it. Fear could either paralyze or empower, and tonight I'd choose the latter. "Hey, Zuri." Lucas's voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me back to the moment. He leaned against the doorway, an easy grin plastered on his face. "You look contemplative. Should I be worried?" I brushed a strand of hair from my forehead, the gesture somehow soothing. "Worried might not be the right word, but we should definitely talk." Lucas's brow knitted together as he stepped closer. "What's up? You've got that look." The creases in his forehead deepened as he glanced past me into the icy blackness beyond the windows, as if sensing the danger looming outside. "I intercepted a message," I said, lowering my voice as if the walls could hear me. "They plan to sabotage us during the gala." His eyes widened. "The gala? But that's when everyone's going to be—" "Exactly." I crossed my arms, a protective gesture. "They know it'll be chaos, and it's the perfect time to execute their plan. We need to alert the crew." "Right. I'll get the others." He hesitated, electing to take a step closer, his gaze searching my face. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "More than okay. I'm just getting started." In that case, Lucas clapped his hands together, bursting with enthusiasm as he pivoted toward the corridor. "I love this version of you. Tough as nails. We'll protect the ship, and in the process, you might just scare the marauders away with that killer glare of yours." I laughed, the tension in my shoulders easing, but the moment was fleeting. As Lucas darted down the hall, I felt the unwelcome sensation of vulnerability climbing back in, an uncomfortable reminder of how deeply Elias's opinions affected me. Elias. I hadn't seen him since our last encounter, which left an electric moment suspended in the taut air between us. I could still feel the warmth of his breath on the curve of my neck, how he had drawn me in with both strength and allure. He had awakened something within me that I had assumed was dormant. I extended my arm to touch the cool metal railing, feeling the pulse of urgency in my fingertips. This moment required something more than mere toughness. I needed to confront the man who had so adeptly mixed desire with danger, overpowering my defenses while making me question my own ambitions. Meanwhile, the lively atmosphere of the ship's bar had shifted. The eclectic enough group was gathered there, laughter ringing out like bells to break the grim silence. Maya swiped a hand over the tabletop, gathering her thoughts. "So if we're not allowed to leave the ship, what's the point of having a gala? It's like having a birthday party without cake." "Don't fear, I bake my own," joked Brian as he poured another round of drinks, his tone flirting with an edge of cheekiness, "and I promise they taste better than what our last chef made." You'd think a luxury cruise could manage a decent chocolate mousse. Right, as if that doesn't terrify me. Maya rolled her eyes, and we all chuckled, the laughter a bright flicker of joy amidst the swirling uncertainty. Yet beneath the banter, every joke felt laced with an awareness of the encroaching threat. So what's the plan, Captain? I stepped forward, my heart thumping in the rhythm of purpose. Elias emerged at that moment, cutting through the laughter like a winter wind, his presence commanding and irresistibly magnetic. He leaned against the frame of the doorway, arms crossed, revealing the strength of his subtle confidence. Marauders won't know what hit them as long as I'm here. He smirked, but there was gravity in his eyes. What do you suggest? Brian asked, skepticism flickering across his face. Elias didn't waste time. We set a trap, used the gala to our advantage. We'll keep an eye on the perimeter while Zuri monitors their communications, and we'll do it together. The way he looked at me, intense yet inviting, set my heart racing. I'm on board, I said, testing the limits of my resolve. But we need to gather everyone. Maya shot me an approving glance. Lead the way, brave lady. Elias stepped closer to me, lowering his voice enough for only my ears. I trust you, you know, he murmured, the warmth of his breath igniting my skin. You shouldn't, I replied, needing to maintain some semblance of coolness against the heat rising inside me. He always sparked something inside me, creative ambition, desire, or a heady combination of both. Why not, he asked, an alluring smile creeping onto his lips. You're the one fighting this. You're extraordinary. My voice dropped to a whisper just as I leaned closer. You don't know what I'm capable of. Why don't we find out? He countered, our eyes locking as an unspoken challenge pulsed thick in the air. Just then, Brian threw a stack of papers onto the table, breaking the moment's spell. And Zuri's right. If we're going to catch them, we need to figure out what these codes mean. Anyone speak gibberish? Laughter erupted again, but I could barely concentrate. Something electric crackled between Elias and me, drawing me in closer. Yet, even amidst the levity, in the gleam of his dark eyes, I sensed a deeper readiness for the challenge ahead. We spent the next hour weaving strategies, the urgency driving us with palpable energy. Every laugh, every exchange of ideas felt less like mere survival strategy and more like an exhilarating dance. The sound of heated discussions mingled with the clinking glasses, creating a vibrant melody of camaraderie. Preparations for the gala were underway, excitement buzzing. We gathered to map how to best utilize the planned spectacle to our advantage, weaving in red herrings and crafting defensive measures. It felt chaotic, but there was something thrilling about it all, wrapped up in the palpable charge surrounding Elias and me. Then all too quickly the evening slipped into night. Our budding plan, veering beautifully off script as Elias ushered me away, his fingers brushing against mine. He led me toward the upper deck, just the two of us, the icy air coaxing our closeness. He turned to me, a playful grin on his face. I could get used to working alongside you. What if I get used to you? I said, fully intending to provoke. Let's see if we can take those risks together. He stepped closer, the air between us sparking with tension. The moonlight kissed his features, turning his dark skin to silver. I've never been one to shy away from risk, I shot back, breathless as he captured my gaze, holding it with a little too much intensity. That makes two of us. His voice dropped to a whisper, wrapping around me like the night. And in that moment, I didn't care about the marauders or the drama. I was just Zuri with Elias standing impossibly close, the weight of everything dissolving beneath our shared heartbeat. I ached to close the distance, and in that need, something primal surged to the surface. I tested the boundaries of my newly revived spark, stepping toward him, feeling the smooth fabric of his shirt as he caged me against the rail. What are we doing here, Elias? I asked, pulling him in close, inviting him into the depths of my need. Whatever you desire, he breathed, the fire in his gaze undimming. And suddenly, without any more words, I wrapped my arms around him, pulling him into an electric kiss. The cold night air fell away, eclipsed by the warmth of desire that coursed through us. His lips pressed against mine, firm and urgent, as if to remind us both that life was fleeting, that this tumultuous journey was just the beginning. Kisses deepened, passion igniting like the burning glaciers outside. He pressed me against the cold surface, our breaths mingling as each touch sent tremors of heat through me. Every lingering kiss was a promise, awakening my senses, filling the vast hollow spaces in me with burning desire and ache. "Stay with me," I murmured against his skin, craving his strength. "Always," he whispered back, the word heavy with intention. The reality of impending danger faded in the wake of our passion, or perhaps it made it burn brighter, this connection, this yearning amid the tumult. And as the stars twinkled above, it was just the two of us, a wild symphony of want, woven into the fabric of the night. I felt powerful, cherished, and true to my desires, ready to embrace the challenges ahead. In that intimacy, I knew the next chapter of our story was only just beginning, but I was more than ready to face it together. "Do you hear that?" Elias's breath warmed my ear as we broke apart, his expression shifting from ardor to caution. "What, the sound of my heart racing?" I teased, but a serious tension gripped me. He frowned, listening intently. "No, it's the silence." A chill crawled down my spine as I caught a fragment of movement in the distance. "Elias? Get down," he barked, his protective instinct immediately kicking in. And there it was again, the reminder that the marauders lurked just moments away. But one thing was clear. As danger loomed, whatever might come, I was ready to fight with everything I had. Zuri Lawson had no intention of backing down. The stakes were high, but so was my determination. Chapter 49. Planning the Ambush. The air in the conference room was stifling, heavy with the scent of varnished wood and the tang of fresh whiteboard marker. I drew a deep breath, taking in the quiet hum of the Antarctic ship's engine beneath my feet. Outside, the relentless wind battered against the hull, howling with the fury of polar storms that mirrored the tumult I felt inside. Here I was, surrounded by my team, preparing to face an unseen nemesis lurking just beyond the borders of our icebound sanctuary. "What's our move, Zuri?" Derek asked, leaning back in his chair, eyes dancing from me to the large map laid out on the table, dotted with meticulous annotations. He wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, the temperature rising despite the frigid backdrop outside. "We need to circle the crew together. If they're behind the sabotage, we have to anticipate their moves," I replied, gesturing toward the map, my pulse quickening with excitement and anxiety. "We take shifts watching the lower decks, and while we do so, we gather intel. Saboteurs can't resist a chance to gloat." Elias stood, arms crossed, his presence a solid wall behind me. He'd changed, rolled up sleeves revealing flecks of ink on his skin, hair slightly tousled, but that same piercing gaze remained. I could feel his eyes on me, a mix of respect and challenge that sent sparks through me. The memory of our recent encounters flickered in my mind. Heated arguments, stolen glances, the rush of shared secrets, all culminating in a promise lingering between us like an unspoken vow. "Are you sure you want to lead this, Zuri? I don't want you to put yourself in harm's way," Elias interjected, a hint of protectiveness cloaked in his tone. My heart warmed at the concern, but irritation flickered in my core. "Elias, if I let fear dictate my choices, then they win. This is my project and my reputation at stake, not just a game." "Then we steal the thunder before they know we're onto them," Paulo chimed in, clapping his hands together, cutting through the tension. "Let's get chaotic. I love chaos." "Oh, please, I've seen how you handle chaos," Mai teased playfully, tossing a packet of notes at him. "Lost your last gym membership, remember?" "Shush," he retorted, dramatically shrugging and pretending to nurse a wounded ego. The laughter that erupted washed over the seriousness of our atmosphere, if only for a moment. The ridiculousness of their banter and unspoken support ignited a surge of warmth, pushing the weight of fear aside. Here in this room, we were a team, not just colleagues, but friends fighting against the shadows of uncertainty. With a mix of enthusiasm and trepidation, I began generating ideas, fueling the room with suggestions that were met with both intrigue and lighthearted cynicism. As we plotted our ambush, the laughter swelled, warmth cascading around us, and I let myself feel powerful. When we broke for lunch, Elias lingered back, waiting for the room to empty. The clatter of dishes faded, replaced by the distant symphony of the ice shifting outside. "You did well," he said, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. He hesitated, searching for the right words. "You're leading us into a storm. Doesn't that excite you?" His eyes glimmered, a tempest brewing there. Excitement is an understatement. He stepped closer, body relaxing into a casual stance, though the energy between us remained electric. "I'll protect you, Zuri, whatever happens out there." Even against growing feelings, I pressed, the teasing lilt of my voice cloaked in more seriousness than I let on. I didn't need the protective edge, though I felt greedily drawn to it. "The feelings worth fighting for are the ones that challenge us the most," he murmured, inches from me now, his breath a whisper of danger. It ignited something in my core, a pulse that begged for recognition. Before I could respond, the clang of metal disrupted our moment, fleet-footed gossips sliding across the space. "Hey, lovebirds!" shouted Derek, bursting through the door. "The kitchen is serving moose stew. I know you'd rather share your moment, but we're hungry, and we could use your master plan on the dinner table." I shot him a dazzling smile, half grateful, half annoyed. "You're the worst, Derek." He winked as he retrieved a couple of chairs, bringing them to us, the nonsensical chaos of cabin camaraderie reigniting the laughter. As we gathered around the table, I felt a shift in the air, my team's support washing over me in waves. Hours later, my head spinning with details and strategy, I found myself leaning against the wall of my cabin, the dim light tinged with shadows flickering across white-blue walls. The winds howled outside like an angry beast, but within me brewed a tempest of a different kind. The sound of Elias approaching was unmistakable, drumming a beat of anticipation along my spine. He pushed my door slightly ajar, just enough to slip inside. "Thought you could use some company," he quipped, closing the door behind him with a soft click. "I was just thinking about you, strangely," I laughed, although the truth hummed warmly beneath the surface, and how I could confront the icy abyss of my feelings. "Just feelings, huh?" He closed the distance between us, the heat of his body radiating against the cold atmosphere of the cabin. "What else is there?" Before I could reply, Elias captured my face in his hands, his touch warm against my chilled skin. The electricity between us surged, exhilarating. He leaned in, lips brushing mine with a tantalizing deliberation that sent a shiver down my spine. "Let me show you." And then he kissed me, deeply, fiercely, igniting something primal within me. I melted against him, my entire being responding to his intensity. It was the kind of kiss that anchored me and uprooted me simultaneously, electrifying everything beneath my skin as I pulled him closer, fingers tangling in his hair, holding on for dear life against the tide of desire. "More." My whisper broke the air between us, an invitation wrapped in desperation. "More," he echoed, his lips passionate against my neck as he traced a path down my collarbone, the coolness of the air falling away in the heat of the moment. My body tingled, every nerve awakening to sensation, the world outside all but forgotten. Lost in each other, the rhythm of our bodies intertwined, a sweet chaos evolved from soft murmurs to fervent desperation. Each kiss was a battle of longing, teasing, drawing me into the depths of him, where I could lose myself in the storm that raged between us. Our clothes fell away in reckless abandon, intertwined with our laughter and whispers as we fumbled across the room, needing a space to breathe and escape the confines of reality. Is this too much? I asked breathlessly, sensing the wildness of our connection that sparkled around us like starlight, every want palpable. Never, he replied, claiming my mouth for another feverish kiss as his hands traced the curves and dips of my body like an artist mapping a canvas. We won't stop until the world knows what we've built. His words hum in the air like declarations of passion laced in sacred promises, and I surrendered willingly, falling into the depths of this burning connection that felt as vital as the air. Time scorched away, but in each intertwining movement, we crafted a universe steeped in unquenchable fire. It wasn't just flames ignited by our bodies, it was a grand reckoning, the kind that dared to conjure storms amidst ice, that wrestled with heartbreak and hope. As we collapsed near the end, laughter bursting through gasps for breath, I clutched Elias's arm, my heart racing from more than just the physical exertion. In the dim glow of my cabin, beneath the playful shadows, I came to understand the undeniable truth. The ambush we planned was far more than a tactical move against our enemies. It was our way of seizing the tempest and claiming the love fraught with risk and passion, proving that even frozen hearts could thaw. "Ready for the storm?" he asked gingerly, his voice a warm murmur as he pulled me close. I smiled, knowing this was only the beginning. Always. Chapter 50, Where Loyalties Lie. The biting chill of the Antarctic air was suddenly more oppressive, mingling with an anxiety that hummed beneath my skin. I stood at the ship's observation deck, every sharp wind howl echoing the turbulence brewing in my heart. Ice clung to our vessel like a shroud of uncertainty, a tangible reminder of the challenges ahead. Just beyond the glass, vast expanses of white, gleaming under a crescent moon, seemed to mock the frenzy of emotions I tried to repress. I gripped the railing, breathing deep the scent of salt and frost. Elias stood a few steps behind, his silhouette framed by the draped fabric of my cracked reality. Our latest argument had sliced through the air only hours ago, leaving me with the burning residue of fury and doubt. Was I failing to decipher the loyalties of those around me, or was I merely projecting my fractured trust onto them? In moments of silence like this, my instincts churned, warning me of danger. But who could I trust when my past felt so hauntingly close? "Zuri?" Elias's voice pierced the quiet, layers of askance buried in that single syllable. I turned to face him, his eyes dark and alluring, but I sensed the tension clutching at him. "You disappeared again. What's going on in that tumultuous mind of yours?" I swallowed hard, pulling from the depths of my composure. It's just hard to believe that the people we thought were on our side aren't always what they seem. I can feel the loyalty is... I hesitated, searching for the right words, as the sharpness of my feelings suddenly felt fragile. Shifting. One eyebrow arched. Elias took a step closer, the unyielding warmth of his body casting aside the chill that still clung to me. "You're not in this alone, Zuri. We have each other, right?" His intensity felt like a flame, counteracting the chill of not only the world outside, but the shadows that danced within me. "Is that enough?" I glanced down, feeling my heart pound in response to his unwavering gaze that absorbed my every doubt. The taut silence between us tightened, heavy yet electrifying. "Let me show you it is," he murmured, daring me with his eyes as his hands reached for my face, tilting it up. He leaned in, his breath warm against my skin, sending shock wires of urgency spiraling through my veins. But the storm brewing in the recesses of my mind wrestled against the hunger that stirred in my core. Before I could answer, his lips met mine, soft, agonizingly slow at first, as though he wished to coax me out of my tension rather than shatter it. My body responded instinctively, arching into him, wanting him to press harder against my hesitations. My hands found refuge in the confines of his jacket, clutching it as our kiss deepened and morphed into something primal, raw. Across the observation deck, Marco, one of the ship's navigators, entered the space with an air of discomfort, catching the two of us mid-embrace. Sorry to interrupt, but Elias released me, stepping back as the connective electricity in the air dissipated into a visible tension. Marco's eyes darted between us, his expression baffled. "We've got a situation," he added, lowering his voice as if we were conspirators of a scandal. "What is it?" I snapped, irritation tinged with the remnants of passion that still thrummed in my chest. "There's chatter from the crew. Someone's planning to sabotage our expedition." Marco said the words, but I could see the disbelief cloaking his posture. "We need to address this now. It's serious." "And how do you know that?" Elias's tone darkened, the playful familiarity morphing into a steely authority. Jealousy wove into the fabric of his expression. "Look, I've been here long enough to know when things are getting tense. You both need to be aware of the risks." I heard it straight from the galley. "Our supplies have gone missing, and it wouldn't surprise me if someone is starving us out." Elias exchanged a glance with me, his face betraying his protective instinct. "We'll figure it out. For now, we need to stabilize our team." And so the distraction unraveled, paving the way for the chaos that awaited us. Later in the ship's common room, the atmosphere buzzed with an agitated energy. The synthetic light cast an unreal glow on faces that varied from anxious to defiant. I found my footing in the flickering crowd, rafters dim yet resonating with whispered tension, an electric undercurrent I could feel in my bones. "Did you hear the latest? Paul's supplies went missing. No one knows where they went." A fellow passenger mused, lips pinched in concern. "More than that," another chimed in. "I think someone's planning an exit on this trip. When things get rough, people reveal their true colors." The words hung in the air like an uninvited guest, leaking mistrust. "Spare us the theatrics. We're all in this together, right?" Someone snapped, their frustration boiling over. I felt a sense of urgency swell within me, a growing discontent tethered to the fear of true betrayal. Elias rounded the corner, eyes fixated on me, threading through the crowd like a hawk searching for the faintest sign of prey. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, his smirk disappearing as our gazes locked. "Everything okay?" He mouthed through the commotion, scanning my expression. I felt an unspoken bond in that moment, a mutual understanding that extended beyond the chaos swirling around us. "Are you sure you trust the crew?" came the words from Jenna, our mutual friend, who pushed her way next to me. She'd always possessed an intuition sharper than most, and her worries added weight to an already charged atmosphere. "I want to, but something feels off. I can't shake it." I glanced back at Elias, caught between wanting him closer and needing the space to breathe. Jenna leaned in closer, her voice dropping. "Elias is, well, he's tied into a lot of this." "Leave Elias out of this," I snapped, frustration colliding with my swells of uncertainty. "He's not the problem, except he might be a part of the problem," she retorted, her tone becoming sharp as she surveyed the room, weighing her words carefully. "You need to consider the people you surround yourself with. Secrets can tear you apart." "Are you really suggesting that I doubt him?" My heart raced, the discussion stirring not only fear but jealousy. I glanced toward Elias, his demeanor stoic yet visibly strained. The juxtaposition left me torn between the two realities colliding around us. Suddenly, Marco moved back into view, appearing strained as he wiped his brow. "What's the plan, folks?" He turned to me, and the world narrowed, his voice hanging with intention. "You need to keep your wits about you. If we're going to fight this, we have to rely on each other, Zuri." "I'll do what I need to, but I won't betray Elias," I said firmly, as my gaze flicked back to him, still observing me with striking intensity. "We all have secrets, but trust me, his investments run deep in my corner." "I know, just make sure those investments don't bankrupt you." Jenna's warning felt like a blade, slick and heavy. "What about friendships, loyalties?" I asked, spinning into a web where they all seemed to tangle and shift beneath me. "You all say you want to band together, but then you throw subtle barbs as if you know more than feelings." The charged tension in the room ricocheted within my chest, igniting insecurities I fought to suppress. Before anyone could respond, the lights flickered violently. The tension hung, vibrating through the uneasy energy of the room. People shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting about as panic began to stir. "Damn it," Marco muttered. "Someone's messing with the power." "Stay together," Elias ordered, the fervor in his voice commanding silence. "If something's about to happen, we need to be on guard." He stepped closer, sliding a protective arm around my waist, drawing me tighter against him, even as the air crackled with nervous energy. Within the grip of impending danger, I found solace in his security. "I'm not leaving your side," I whispered, feeling the warmth of his confidence seep into my own muddled thoughts. He nodded, eyes steady on the shifting group around us. "Stay sharp. We'll get through this." Just then, a shout broke through the crowd. What was that? The panic of the group surged, and all semblance of order began to unravel, like the ice picking away at the ship's hull. "Stay close." Adrenaline thrashed through me, propelled by fear and the intoxicating thrill of his proximity. The world felt as if it was crumbling, but I was too busy navigating my rising feelings between us. Later that night, after the climactic whirlwind of rebellion settled into an uneasy truce, we found ourselves alone, the ship creaking softly in the dark. "Those accusations," Elias started, his voice a low rumble as he traced circles on my thigh, his hands finding the warmth hidden beneath layers of clothing. "They don't matter. What matters is how we respond. Don't think I didn't hear what everyone was saying out there. It's as though they think they know more about us than we do." My heart beat unsteadily. I fought against curling desire, though none of my instincts could resist the heated proximity between us, the fiery energy radiating despite the chaos lurking beyond our door. "Zuri," Elias said, his voice gravely serious as eyes smoldered into the depths of mine with fierce intensity. "You have every right to feel threatened, but I need you to trust me. We can't afford doubt." "I can't decide who to trust." My voice cracked, the weight of vulnerability bearing down on my chest. Both my heart and my mind are at odds. How can I hold on to my ambitions when everything feels suddenly so fragile? "You fight for what you cherish, and you don't give in to fear. You are stronger than you realize." His brow furrowed slightly, his protective nature unfurling under the weight of my unspooled thoughts. With a swift motion, he pulled me closer, and my fears collided intricately with the heat of his need. The world outside became a dim whisper as my body responded, unable to resist the gravitational pull between us. As lips met with fervor, a hunger unleashed itself, feral and raw. I let go of the insecurities, wrapping my arms around his neck while he deepened the kiss, urgency igniting the air between us once more. My body ached for him, and every fragment of doubt dissipated. "More," I breathed against his lips, unashamed of the desperation clawing within me. My hands clutched his hair, as though anchoring myself to all that was right in the world amidst the turmoil. Elias picked me up, spinning me against the wall as he captured my mouth with dives of wild abandon. My heart thundered, a frantic rhythm that matched the urgency of our bodies colliding, echoing a promise of passion and survival, drowning out the chaos outside. In that heated rush, everything fell away. Conflicts faded into nothingness. It was just him and me, fervent and alive, among the tumultuous layers of secrets and treachery that surrounded us. And perhaps, in that sensuous embrace, I found the quiet, aching certainty of being tethered, our world slowly shifting in a cohesive dance of trust. Despite the raging storm on the horizons, he kissed me deeply, and every soul-deep longing ignited within, urging me to confront the adventures that awaited, vibrant with promise and peril, love as its anchor. "Let's weather this storm together," he murmured as our lips met again, hunger entwining us deeply, the promise of more than just a moment stretching infinitely ahead. "Together," I whispered back, drowning in the anticipatory swell of desire and laughter, the raucous chaos outside fading like echoes in the night. Chapter 52. Eyes on the prize. The cold light of the ship's galley flickered with the sporadic hum of the freezer unit, the air heavy with the scent of lingering fish from lunch. I stood over a massive pile of aquamarine gemstones, each one an ocean of potential and ambition. My fingers grazed over their surfaces, the coolness sending a shiver through me that had little to do with the Antarctic chill seeping through the walls. These stones were my future, or at least they could be if I could convince the board that they needed to invest in my collection, my vision, my legacy. "Do you think they'll be ready for the presentation tomorrow?" I asked Ella, one of my closest confidants and a steadfast supporter, as she stacked samples into neat rows. Her dark hair was pulled tight into a bun, an expression of determined focus etched across her face. "Just keep reminding them of the market trends you highlighted," she replied, dropping in a few more stones. "It's all about that shimmering narrative, Zuri. You sell the allure, not just the jewelry." Easier said than done. I leaned back, allowing myself a moment to breathe in the scent of polished glass and the salt of the sea. "You know them. They're not just looking for a pretty face on the presentation. They want profits, and if I don't deliver, they'll toss you to the icebergs," Ella finished, her voice laced with the sharp edge of reality. "But you're not giving them that power. You've been rebuilding, Zuri. You're not the woman they tried to write off. Show them." I offered her a grateful nod, my heart swelling with admiration for her unwavering belief in me. Yet a shadow stirred inside me, stirring up thoughts of past failures and painful betrayals. I was not that woman anymore, but the ghosts of my insecurities still whispered too loudly. Suddenly the door burst open, and in strode Elias, a tempest clad in a tailored navy jacket that hugged his broad shoulders perfectly. He had an intensity about him, a raw energy that could light a fire in the most unyielding environments. "What's cooking?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Just plotting world domination as usual," I shot back, a grin spreading over my lips. "Betraying your inner villain, I see," he chuckled, coming closer. He leaned against the counter. "I brought you something." He handed me a small, meticulously wrapped package. The sleek black paper held a weight of anticipation. "What is it?" I asked, curious. "Open it." I peeled back the paper to reveal a delicate silver necklace featuring a single aquamarine teardrop nestled between sparkling diamonds. My breath caught in my throat. "Elias, it's beautiful. I can't accept this." "You can and you will," he insisted, those deep eyes locking onto mine like a lifeline. "It signifies the first step toward your new direction. I'll be right here, facing the storm with you. Whatever happens tomorrow, you have me. Always." Before I could respond, the door swung open again, and Carter, one of the junior members of our expedition team, sauntered in. "The ice is cracking," he announced, a hint of drama in his voice. "Looks like we might have a dilemma on our hands." "What do you mean?" I asked, anxiety threading through my gut. "The big pressure cracks are forming. We might not be able to stick around much longer." He shrugged like it was casual Tuesday news. "Great, so I have to fight for my future while keeping one eye on the icebergs?" I huffed, the frustration bubbling to the surface. This wasn't how my grand presentation was supposed to go. "Look, you can still nail the presentation, Zuri," Elias said, his tone earnest yet soothing. "Focus on what you can control. The ships might drift, but they won't take away your ideas." "Easy for you to say," I spat, a spark of annoyance flaring. "You aren't the one who's risking everything after a year of trying to rebuild." Elias stepped forward, his eyes steady, a deep current of understanding flowing between us. "You think I'm not invested too?" His voice dropped, barely above a whisper. "I have everything riding on this just as much as you do. I'd never want you to feel alone in any of this. You keep saying I'm not alone, but I'm the one putting myself out there. What if I do all this and it isn't enough?" I took a step back, the tension crackling between us. I wasn't just fighting for my project. I feared becoming that vulnerable again. "You're on the verge of creating something," he began, his voice a low rumble of passion. "But I don't need your savior complex," I interrupted, hurt bubbling beneath the surface. My past had taught me that trust was as fragile as glass. "So, thanks for the necklace, but this isn't about self-shiny gifts. I'm not here for salvation. That was never my intention, he snapped, frustration seeping through his otherwise tempered demeanor. A bystander while you storm into this unknown? I'm not asking for a knight in shining armor, I said, my tone sharper than I intended. I just want to be taken seriously. I take you seriously, Zuri. The sharpness in his eyes softened, warmth replacing tension. You have fire. Your work is incredible. Don't you dare doubt it. I hope that helps when it comes crashing down around us, I murmured, half joking, but entirely serious. Ella, sensing the rising stakes, stepped in. All right, team, how about baking some cookies to sweeten the deal? Who doesn't love a good cookie during a crisis? She turned the kettle on, the sound of water bubbling, diffusing the tension in the room a little. Do you have chocolate chips? I asked. Of course. Think of it as an emotional support cookie baking session. Ella winked. Count me in. An emotional roller coaster calls for emotional snacks. I looked at Elias, who was still standing too close, our unresolved tension hovering in the air, thick and palpable. Cookies don't just fix everything, he said, approaching me again, but being honest about what we each need might. No one's looking for a one-size-fits-all solution, Elias. I crossed my arms, the icy air around us almost protecting me, as I fired a smirk back. He huffed a laugh, and for a moment we shared a bubble of containment, the world rolling in silence around our shared moment. I'm beginning to appreciate that. But let's not forget, two different people can collide and create something entirely unexpected. There it was again, the way he drew lines between the chaos between us and the possibilities. It ignited a longing within me I'd been guarding jealously. Except for when they collide into something disastrous, I replied, a teasing lilt edging my tone. Or when they create a masterpiece. His voice was low, mischievous, and my insides tightened. Do you really believe that? I gestured helplessly at the room, the kitchen, the entire icy world beyond. I could feel vulnerability threatening to break out of me like sunlight through a crack. Yes, and so do you. A moment of silence held its breath around us, plunging into depths of unspoken intimacy that seemed to beckon courage. Okay then, let's make our masterpiece, shall we? I offered a playful smile, lifting my chin slightly in challenge. As we began to grab the ingredients together, the tension started to thaw, but remnants of an argument shimmered in the background. Every accidental brush of his hand against mine sent sparks through me, igniting familiar flames. You know what you should do with the necklace? I mused, purposely drawing the subject away from the undercurrent of our earlier clash. What's that? Elias looked over, curiosity lacing his tone. Drape it on me while I present. I grinned, the cheekiness returning to my voice, and he chuckled, shaking his head. Is it too much? Not if you're wearing it. Ella chimed in with laughter. Stop flirting this early before the cookies even bake. It's downright sinful. Us? Flirting? I tossed back, feigning shock at the idea. Elias raised an eyebrow, but furled back the humor. You know you want those cookies. Are you admitting to being tempted? I can hold my judgment even if my sweet tooth doesn't, I winked, feeling air shift. I was ready to unleash every burning thought within me, and maybe even a few of those luscious desires I'd been keeping at bay. Let's see. He leaned closer, and I could feel the weight of his breath, pulling me forward. That protective streak flared, and all I could do was lean into it. What if we waited until this presentation is all done? I turned my gaze, slightly blushing, and let air hover between us, a shared connection shimmering in the frigid room. We'll see, I replied, teasingly soft. I think you might keep me more than a little distracted. As we continued mixing flour and sugar, Ella popped her head between us. Come on, how about we fight through it together? Around the whirs of baking, laughter bounced off the walls. The dim light faded slightly into an inviting warmth. Empowered, I swallowed my anxieties halfway down, and the fragile beauty of our connection felt emboldened in this moment of chaotic reassurance. Later, when the cookies were still hot from the oven, my soul felt lighter. but the world was still waiting for a verdict. Would I emerge on the other side of tomorrow, or would I drown in the frost? Something in me whispered that as long as we faced storms together, hell or high waters, I might just grasp the prize awaiting beyond the horizon, not only for my company, but also for us. Two storms colliding into something unknown, love and ambition coiling through the chaos ahead. And I was ready. "I'll see you at the presentation. Don't freeze out there," I teased, glancing up at him. Elias leaned in closer, his voice low. "Only if I have you with me. If you're as good as I know you are, they might try, but only because they know you're about to blow everyone else out of the water." I turned to face him, my heart racing. He always had a way of igniting something within me, a fire buried too deeply beneath layers of self-doubt. "You keep saying that, but being talked about and being respected are two different things." "Wrong. They're often one and the same." He stepped closer, the scent of his sandalwood cologne driving me to distraction, wrapping around me like a warm blanket. "You just need to believe it." With every word, the tension in the air shifted. Outside our window, the ice cracked and groaned, a wild symphony piercing the quiet of my thoughts. But here, in this cocoon of half-finished jewelry and ambition, it was Elias's intensity that drowned out the chaos, his presence eclipsing the harsh realities of the frozen world enveloping us. "Belief doesn't just happen overnight," I shot back, my voice firm, but the quiver in it betrayed me. I glanced down at the array of gems scattered across the polished wood of the work table, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the bleakness outside. I didn't ask to have my life reset. I had plans, dreams, and then things fell apart. "What was it you once said? Life is a series of windows," he replied, his gaze unflinching, piercing through the walls I built to protect myself. "You close one, another opens. You can't let the past dictate your future." "Elias," I started, willing myself to keep steady. "You don't understand. You've always had this confidence, this power. I've been clawing my way up one piece at a time. I can't just walk into the world of high fashion and expect respect." His smirk faded for a moment, replaced by a serious expression that made my pulse quicken. "You've already done the hardest part. You got back on your feet. You're here, now. Seize it." The need in his voice pulled me toward him, and that physical distance began to vanish. "You think I can?" I challenged, feeling daring, the truth burning in my throat, each syllable a test of my own belief. "Zuri, I can see it in you." He captured my gaze, those dark eyes as turbulent as the icy sea outside. "You can go beyond them. It's in you. Everything you need is here." He gestured toward my array of jewels, symbolizing not just adornment, but the dreams I'd buried too deep. "Right in front of me," I echoed softly. The air shifted again, charged with unspoken promise. I took a tentative step forward, feeling the space we shared hum with energy. "But do I even know what I really want?" "You want to create." Elias's voice was low, a quiet thunder that reverberated through the workshop. "And I think you want more than just acknowledgement. You crave passion in everything you do." "Passion?" I scoffed. "Not everyone has the luxury of indulging every whim. I can't afford to step off the path for something as unpredictable as passion." "I think you've confused passion with unpredictability. The heart is not meant to function within categories of safe and risky," he replied, moving ever closer until there was hardly any space left. We stood so close that I could see the flecks of gold within his irises. I could also hear the deliberate hitch in my breath. Suddenly it felt as if the walls around us trembled, perhaps from the weight of desires left unspoken, or perhaps from the immensity of everything between us. "Are you willing to risk more?" His voice was velvet, wrapping around my insecurities. "To let your heart take the reins?" I stared at him, the air thick with implications. "And what if my heart leads me to you? I don't know if you're someone I can afford to have in my life." Zuri, he murmured, inching even closer. You're already in my life. All I'm asking is for you to believe in them, and in yourself. His breath mingled with mine, warm against the chill circulating through the small workshop. I could tell he felt it too, the pull, the instinctual questions rising from both the heart and mind. What happens next? What if everything changes? I murmured, my defenses wavering. The man standing in front of me exuded power and magnetism, yet still somehow left room for my uncertainties, for my ambition to coexist with desire. Elias tilted his head, a tinge of laughter crinkling his eyes. Change can be good. Besides, if my heart can conquer an ocean of ice, yours can navigate a galaxy of dreams. In that moment, I stepped forward, my heart racing and my walls shattering like the ice outside. Then let me fly, I whispered, bringing my lips softly to his, brushing against the heat radiating from him. His hands found their way to my waist, tracing the curve of my body against him. Let's take you to the stars, Zuri. His voice was a promise, each word igniting the inextinguishable flames of desire. The kiss deepened, soft, lingering, then possessive, our breaths mixing in the cool air, and I melted against him. His hand slid down to cup my face, fingers weaving through my hair as he anchored me to him. And I felt the walls of my heart push back against the shadows. I had spent years building up defenses. But here with Elias, those walls began to fall, piece by piece, and every touch burned brighter. Right here with this, he breathed in between kisses, making me wonder just how far I could stretch my desires. How can you possibly want to settle for mundane? If we're going to fly away, I murmured, breaking the kiss to catch my breath. What makes you think we're not just falling together? Falling is just another way of taking off, he replied, brushing a thumb gently against my cheek. Outside, the wind howled, mirroring my growing tempest of emotions. But here, within this space of his warm embrace, I felt safe. I sighed, half playful, half sincere. Okay, let's say we take off. You'll be my co-pilot? I arched an eyebrow, the tension shifting to playful competition. At your service, he laughed, his deep voice rolling like distant thunder, paired with the crack of ice around us. I promise to guide you. But know this, there are times I'll push you out of your comfort zone. Good. I straightened, a newfound fervor coursing through me, because then I might actually find what drives me. And with that, we fell into laughter, a strange mix of confidence and chaos that colored the cold room around us. Until that moment, everything felt palpable, a heartbeat in sync with the storm outside. But then the laughter morphed into something raw and compelling, and he pulled me close again. Let's fly then, he murmured, his lips brushing against my collarbone. The spark ignited something uncontainable within me, sending ripples of electricity coursing through my veins. Elias, I gasped almost breathlessly, pulling him closer. If you keep doing that, then we're already too far gone, he teased, eyes glimmering with mischief, and I can't promise where we'll end up. I grinned, staring defiantly into his intoxicating gaze. All the better if we don't know. Then let's make our own map, he said, just before sealing our gamble with another intoxicating kiss. Outside, the ice might be threatening, but inside, we created our own heat, an unyielding power fueled by determination, laughter, and passion. Together, we transformed the isolated uncertainty into endless possibilities, igniting a fierce drive that elevated every decision pressing upon us. I had found my advocate, the one who would encourage me not just to pursue my ambitions, but to embrace boldness, to revel in the wild ride of it all. And for the first time, I felt willing to leap. With him. With us.